If everybody could please mute or turn off your cell phones. And if you'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. To the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we're going to go to number 3, which is swearing in of the county board members. I'm going to have all of you stand at the same time, and you're going to face me, and you're going to raise your right hand, and you're going to take that piece of paper that I handed you in front of you, and I'm just going to say, I state your name, you will say your name, and then you're going to get down to your district number, you will state your district number. So if everybody would please stand. I state your name. Having been elected to the office of the county board in
of Lee County,
in the county of Lee, state of Illinois, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Lee County Board, District 1.
and please sign your name on that signature line, and then I will pick them up at the conclusion of this meeting. Thank you. Now we'll go to number 4, which will be the roll call of the members. Ackrey?
Here.
Allen? Bivens?
Here.
Book?
Here.
Friel?
Here.
Gascoigne?
Here.
Hudson?
Present.
Kitson?
Present.
Copine?
Present.
Minimi?
Present.
Naylor?
Present.
Olson?
Present.
Robertson?
Present.
Sheline?
Here.
Shippert?
Here.
Scrogstad?
Here.
White? Wilson?
Here.
And Zeman.
Here.
Okay, we're going to go down to number 5, which is the drawing for the terms. Okay, how this will work is I will ask each county board member grouped by your county board district number to come forward to the large conference table up here. Okay, you will pull one at a time your term of office following the general election of 2022. You are going to either be 2, 4, and 4 or 4, 4, and 2, which was determined by the lottery draw at the county board meeting in August. I will place the slips on the table for all of you to see before they are folded up and put in the basket. You will then pull one slip from the basket in the order of the top votes received in your district. You will then print your name on that slip, and that will become the record of your term for the next 10 years. So first up is County Board District 1, which is Copine, Olson, Shippert, Gascoigne, and Sheline, in that order. So if you would please come up to this table here. And then what we want you guys to witness is here are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that they clearly say 2, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Okay, so Mr. Cookie, you're the top vote. Mr. Olson? Mr. Olson drew 4, 4, and 2. Ms. Schubert pulled a 442. Ms. Glenn pulled a 2, 4, and 4. And that leaves Mr. Sheehan. 442. So County Board District 2 consists of White, Allen, Zeman, Minimi, and Avery, in that order. We are, unfortunately, White is not here, and Allen is not here, so that means. Zeman, I just want to make sure you guys all see that.
Don't sit down. Nothing.
So she's not on. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. I don't know what to do. Okay. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Katie White,
Having been elected to the office of the county board in the,
Second District,
okay, of,
County.
in the county of Lee and state of Illinois,
Lee in the state of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or
or
affirm
affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of Lee County
the duties of the office of Lee County
in board. Okay. And then you're going to sign your name on there. We'll get to it later. It's fine.
I'm always making it. Yep, okay.
Perfect. Now, getting back to County Board District 2, so the order that you're going to draw is white. So Katie, come on up and you're going to pull a slip from the basket. So Katie, you have 2, 4, and 4. And then if you could sign your name on that line for me, please. Okay, Alan is not here, so Mr. Zeman. Thank you. Mr. Zeman pulled 4, 4, and 2. Thank you. And Liram, come on up. And Liram pulled 2, 4, and 4. Could sign that for us, Liram. Thank you. And Mr. Acree? Okay. And Mr. Acree pulled 2, 4, and 4. Thank you very much. And then Miss Allen gets 4, 4, and 2. Okay, County Board District 3 consists of Bivens, Hudson, Naylor, Wilson, and the empty seat of Forster. Okay, guys, I don't know if you want to take a look at your actual slips are going to go into the basket. 2, 2, 2, 4, and 4. Okay. Okay, Mr. Bivens? Okay, Mr. Bivens pulled a 4, 4, and 2. You could sign on that line for me. Thank you. Mr. Hudson? Okay, Mr. Hudson pulled 2, 4, and 4. Thank you. Ms. Naylor? And Ms. Naylor picked 2, 4, and 4. Thank you. And Mr. Wilson. And Mr. Wilson picked 2, 4, and 4. And then the last seat, which will be Forster's seat, is a 4, 4, and 2. Okay, next is County Board District 4, which is Friel, Kitson, Book, Skrogstad, and Robertson. Okay, guys, and then if you want to just take a look, there's your 5 that are going into the basket. You've got 3 that are 4, 4, and 2, and 2 that are 2, 4, and 4. Okay, Mr. Friel. Okay, Mr. Friel picked a 2, 4, and 4. Here, please. Oops, Kitson goes next. I'm so sorry. Mr. Kitson pulled a 4, 4, and 2. Now, Mr. Book. Okay, Mr. Book picked 4, 4, and 2. And could you sign at the bottom there for us? Skrogstad. Mr. Skrogstad pulled a 2, 4, and 4. Thanks, Jack. And Mr. Robinson? You are left with 4, 4, and 2. Thank you. Okay, so that gets us moved down to 5. We are at the selection of the chair of the Lee County Board. This is where I will now open the floor for nominations for chair. Mr. Wilson.
I'd like to nominate Bob Olson as the chairman for this board.
Do I have a second? Mr. Skrogstad? Any other nominations for chair? Any other nominations for chairman? Okay, then I'm going to move to a motion to close nominations. I need a motion to close the nominations for chairman of the board. Mr. Kitson first, second, Mr. Copine. Any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Selection of the vice chair. I now will open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Mr. Hudson?
I would like Mr. Tom Kitson nominated.
Do I have a second? Lyram? Any other nominations for vice chair? Any other nominations for vice chair? I need a motion to close the nomination for vice chair. Mr. Hudson first, Mr. Wilson second. Any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. For both, right? Sorry, I need to back up a minute. I do need to do a roll call on the nominations for Bob Olson for chairman. You will respond with a yes or a no for that nomination. So I will start with Eckery. Yes. You will say yes or no.
Yes.
Allen? Bivens?
Yes.
Book?
Yes.
Friel?
Yes.
Gascoigne?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Kitson?
Yes.
Copine?
Yes.
Minimi?
Yes.
Naylor?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Sheline?
Yes.
Shippert?
Yes.
Scrogstead?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Zeman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now I'll do the same for the nomination for vice chair, which was Tom Kitson. Bivens?
Yes.
Book?
Yes.
Friel?
Yes.
Gascoigne?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Copine?
Yes.
Minimi?
Yes.
Naylor?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Sheline?
Yes.
Shippert?
Yes.
Scrogstead?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Zeman?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now, I would like to ask the new county chairman, Bob Olson, to come forward and take a seat at the front of the boardroom. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody, for your confidence.
And I'm sorry, congratulations, Tom Kitson, for vice chair also.
Thank you. I also want to welcome the new 6 board members, and we'll go ahead. We got some housekeeping we need to do, and then some education here. So I'll move down to board member appointments and assignments. They're going to be handed out. Becky's going to hand them out. There'll be a break following the approval of the board member mileage and per diem on the agenda, so we'll be able to make some adjustments if somebody's got a conflict of their schedule or something they want to change. Also, I think there's a couple blank assignments there. If you're interested in them, look me up. While Charlie and them are going through, I'll be in the office over here and we'll go through if anybody's got any problems. I just want to let you know the properties is not a standing chair on there. I think we're going to go through committee and try to pull that out and make that a standing committee. I think we got $5-6 million worth of projects going on in the next 2 years. So I think we need to make that its own standing committee again. So I think we'll go through committee and bring that up next month. As you're reading over them, we'll just continue on. We got a busy day today. We'll go to item 10, setting a meeting schedule for 2023. In the onboard, there's a proposed meeting schedule for this next year. Is there a motion to approve the 2023 meeting schedule? Mr. Wilson and Ms. Naylor, any discussion? Any discussion? If none, all those in agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We have a resolution appointing the IMRF agent. On the onboard is a resolution that would, if approved, would appoint Lee County Treasurer Paul Rudolphy as Lee County IMRF agent. Is there a motion to put it on the floor? Mr. Zeman moves, Mr. Kitson seconds it. Any discussion? We need to do this because Paula was the last IMRF and Paul's the newly elected. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Also with this, item 12, resolution authorizing bank and signature authority. In your onboard is a resolution that, if approved, would give banking signature authority to Lee County Treasurer Paul Rudolphy, Deputy County Treasurer Deborah Robertson, and Deputy County Treasurer Samantha Schmidt to sign any and all checks, drafts, and other orders. Is there a motion for this? Mr. Bevins moves, Mr. Hudson seconds it. Any discussion? If no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. As always, with every meeting, we have to have approval of board members' mileage and per diem. Do I have a motion for that? Mr. Kitson, Mr. Copine seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Let's take a few minutes, look over your assignments. If any questions or comments, come up and see me, or I'll be over in the office here once we start the instruction part of the meeting. So let's take a few minutes and read them over. Wendy, you got anything you want to share?
Excuse me, just that we'll take about a 10-minute recess and we'll be back in 10 minutes. And Charlie's going to kick off our instructional portion of the meeting. So 10 minutes, take a stretch break. If you have any comments to Bob about committee assignments, this is the time to do it.
All right, let's call the meeting back to order. I do have two appointments that are open yet after went through it here. I still have Tri-County became open. I need a board member to fill that slot. And Business Employment Skills Team, which is best if it's in the building here. I need a board member for that appointment. So I'm going to be over in the office. Charlie's going to take over here, I guess, or Wendy. Turn over to Wendy, and we'll go over there. But if you want to talk about assignments, come see me, and we'll see what we can do. Thank you again.
Good morning. I'm Charlie Boonstra, Lee County State's Attorney. I think most of you already know me. If you don't, we'll have plenty of time to get to know me. I understand that there's probably a couple resources at your desk that include overview of the departments as well as kind of an onboard type of document that was put together by a prior county board member to kind of explain the roles of a county board member and kind of how the operation works. If you don't have those, obviously talk to me or Wendy, we can get those for you. I won't belabor because of those two documents. I won't belabor you or bore you with the facets of my job because they're already in there. I am the legal advisor to yourselves as well as the county, the chief legal and ethics officer for the county. And aside from the criminal law aspect of my job, I'm here to give you whatever support I can, to get any legal guidance I can give to you as I can as you tackle projects and issues that come forth in your capacities as county board members. My role is to make legal determinations for the county, to defend the county against lawsuits or the like when it comes to prosecutions, to prosecute those cases. The opinion of my office, and you may hear from other assistant state's attorneys in the office, besides from Stephanie Sasser, who's going to be giving you a presentation today. When you hear an opinion from my office, that is the legal position of the county. From time to time, you may have questions of law or legal interpretation. I'm happy to address those and answer any questions that you may have as they arise. Soon, again, as I said, you're going to be hearing from Stephanie about Open Meetings Act, about FOIA. Please give her your attention and any questions you may have. Please ask those questions. You may think of something afterwards as well. And if you do think of something that you want to talk about, feel free to reach out to us. Which leads me to the other point of this too. If you do not have my cell phone number, please get it from me before you leave today. If you have any questions that come up from meetings that are going to be coming in the future, it might be good to get those questions out of the way before you get to the meeting because it may lead to a longer string of questions down the road as well. As you will soon see in your policies and procedures as county board members, there are different roles that I fill in that capacity, just the legal aspect of it, but also when it comes to Robert's rules, obviously, we want to have Jack Skrogstad do that.
I second that.
Again, any questions, concerns, or anything that comes up, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to be a resource for you. I'm not your personal attorney, but I am your attorney for the county. Thank you.
Would you like to introduce Stephanie?
Yeah. So up next, she's coming up, Stephanie Sasser, Assistant State's Attorney in the office. She comes from Milwaukee. She was originally from Illinois. She was working in Milwaukee in their civil division for the city, tackling a multitude of issues up in Milwaukee, and we're blessed to have her here in the county. She handles traffic and misdemeanor, but primarily is our civil division, and she's got a good head on her shoulders when it comes to county government, so please pay attention.
Thank you very much for the introduction. As you said, good morning, everybody. My name is Stephanie Sasser. I'm recently back home from Milwaukee County and very, very, very excited to be here. I'm probably going to get a lot more excited about this than any of you. I absolutely love anything to do with local government, Open Meetings Act, public records. All this stuff is just really fun and exciting for me. Why? I mean, you're here because you're elected officials. We're part of a public body because we're elected by the public to represent. That means that these pieces of legislation that we're going to discuss are what enforce and ensure that transparency that is paramount in government. And it's very important to take it seriously at the local levels. That's how we enforce it up the chain, right? There's nothing that has more of an effect on our constituents than the level of government right here at home. So taking these two provisions that I'm going to talk about seriously, it just means a lot to me. I really enjoy it. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Open Meetings Act. And I know a lot of this is going to be repetitive for most of you, but a refresher course is always good. So Open Meetings Act, we've got the citation up here. If you ever feel like in your downtime you need something to read or you can't fall asleep, this is a good place to go. So again, this is a piece of legislation that governs all public bodies. It governs the meetings of public bodies. Basic provisions include that all meetings, and there are a few enumerated exceptions. There's 40 enumerated exceptions, which we can touch upon, but we want to stay away from the minutia today. The overarching rule is that all meetings of public bodies have to be open to the public. They have to be open, they have to be available, and we do have to give advance notice of those meetings, right? We have to have it posted, and Wendy is the one who takes care of all that. Purpose of the OMA is to ensure that ensure that public business takes place in a transparent form where they can observe deliberations. Again, we're a representative body here. That's not going to mean very much if we're meeting behind closed doors and the people who've elected you don't have at least the opportunity to come in and observe the way deliberations are done, right? That's how we enforce this representative government. Again, why it's so important that we adhere to it. So it qualifies as a meeting, and this is where it gets fun for me. Because again, coming from Milwaukee, we had a lot of really interesting situations come up. It happens everywhere, but in larger urban areas, they tend to be a little bit more contentious. So coming down here, again, it's nice to be. It's nice to be somewhere small, somewhere local, somewhere where everybody knows you. That's going to come with a few drawbacks, though, right? So what qualifies as a meeting is any gathering, not just in person, not just in this building. You could be having an email chain where you've got a thread of you involved on it. You could be all participating in a social media post, or you could have a group text message. There could be a conference call. You could run into each other at some locale within, anywhere really. You run into each other at a restaurant, you run into each other at a bar. Any gathering of a majority of a quorum, there are a few qualifications to that when we're dealing with the entire board or any committee that is not made up of 5, we're looking at a majority of a quorum. So when we've got the board, the majority is going to be 6. The majority of a quorum is 6 because our quorum is 11. So the majority of a quorum is 6. So anytime I've got 6 of you in a group chat or in a group email chain or on a conference call or at a birthday party from someone you mutually know, we've now indicated the Open Meetings Act. So that's really, really important to understand and remember is that it doesn't just take place here. And then it's to discuss public business. So we've got any gathering of a majority of a quorum to discuss public business. So anything that's tangential to your role here as a representative in the county, anything at all, that's going to indicate the Open Meetings Act. So it's a little bit easier to violate it than we think. So it's just important to stay aware that those are the 3 things that really make up the crux of it. So when we look at quorums, like we just said, the quorums in the OMA for committees and subcommittees of 3, oh, that should say 5. I'm sorry, I proofread this, I promise. For committees and subcommittees of 5, it speaks directly in the statute that a quorum there is 3 members. So it prohibits the gathering of 3 members of a committee of 5. For the Cole County Board, a quorum is 11, so the majority of the quorum is 6. We do have a couple of subcommittees that have those altering numbers. So rule of thumb, if we're not at 5, the majority of the quorum is going to prevail. So for the 6 and 7 member committees, you need to avoid gatherings of 3 of those members. When we're looking at the 3 and 4 member committees, and I know some of them are listed as alternate, avoid 2. So meeting logistics, open meetings must be held in an area that's open and accessible to the public. Open meetings may be recorded. I'm pretty sure they are on here, but in the event any member of the public comes in and decide they want to independently record, that's allowed. And open meetings can address only the matters that are properly noticed to the public on the published agenda. Again, Wendy covers that. We have to publish and give notice of what we're going to discuss. Should a meeting, whether it be the full board, any committee or subcommittee, trend away from what's posted on the agenda, and we're talking about things that weren't properly noticed, we're now in violation of the Open Meetings Act. So again, just things to stay aware of. Do's and don'ts. So remember that it applies to public bodies all of the time. It doesn't just apply to you in this room. It doesn't just apply to you when you're in the formal business of dealing with county matters. It's going to apply to you all the time. So we do need to stay aware all the time. We have to be mindful of the quorum guidelines both before and after meetings and during intermission, because if we're in an intermission, during a properly noticed meeting, and all of a sudden I've got 6 members over here during a subcommittee, I've got 3 members over here that are talking about the weather and it trends towards a matter that's tangential to county business, we're now in violation of the Open Meetings Act, okay? So we need to be aware of that before, after, and during intermission. I know it sounds a little bit cold, but I encourage public bodies during intermission, just don't talk. Don't hang out in groups. It's easiest that way. Then we don't come near that potential of a violation. Don't hang out in groups. Stay on topic, stick to the agenda always during meetings. If we feel it trending away from what's the agenda on, I mean, you guys are largely self-policing. If you feel it trending away, just be aware so we can bring it back. If you have any questions whatsoever, ask our office. We're always, always, always happy to help. Like Charlie just expressed, we represent you. It's our job to make sure we stay in line and in comport with what the rules are. So any questions whatsoever, please let us know. Okay, so that was a brief, very, very bird's eye view of the Open Meetings Act. Does anybody have any questions? Any areas of interest? Further? Yes.
Going back one or two slides about the quorum question,
Yes.
I think you had a typo and it said a committee of 3 must have a full quorum of 3.
Yeah, it should say 5.
5, okay, gotcha.
And I apologize. Okay, don't participate in walking quorums. A quorum is a group any other time than an open meeting. If we're not specifically in person, a walking quorum can occur anytime. We've had it happen many times in Milwaukee where all of a sudden we've got one person sends an email to the entire board on something unrelated. Before you know it, 20 minutes later, we've got a walking quorum taking place. So try to avoid walking quorums. Again, any interaction on social media, I mean, any electronic communication, conference calls, those are the big 2 times that we really see it pop up where we're interacting with each other in a less than formal way. It might start on non-county business, but the temptation is always there to ask a question like, hey, I meant to discuss this with you at the last meeting, or should we do this? Can we deal with this next time? Don't gather outside of public meetings. That would indicate the OMA. Socially, I'm not sure where everyone stands and I don't need to, but it's never a good idea if you're having a personal gathering or if you're attending a personal gathering to invite your fellow board members. Again, it may seem a little bit unfriendly or a little bit cold, but it does keep us on the safe side of the OMA. And I've seen that situation come up as well, where there's, you know, we've had fundraisers come up and it seems like a good idea to invite everybody from the board. It's not. If you got something like that going on, it's okay to invite, like in that instance where we had that fundraiser pop up, we just advised in the future, you can solicit independent donations in independent emails or have that conversation one-on-one, but you can't invite everybody to one location at the same time. Don't address material or subject matter not included in the published agenda, and don't have impromptu or improperly noticed meetings. These can be formal, they can be informal. Even if it's, we just try to avoid that. We have to avoid that, right, under the Act. So again, final reminder, it includes all forms of electronic communication and conference calls. That is not insulated. Now moving forward into the Freedom of Information Act, the OMA deals with our in-person actions and our style of meetings. The Freedom of Information Act is going to deal with our creation of public records. So Freedom of Information Act is the legislation that mandates public access to public records. It works hand in hand with the OMA to enforce transparency in government. So when we enforce that all of our meetings are accessible and open and that the public can be present, observe, and record, they're also allowed to request any public record. And we go through a long list here of everything that's a public record. It does not need to be formal at all. Handwritten notes, stuff scratched out. If you're doing it and it touches upon public business, you've now created a public record. Whether or not someone's ever going to ask for your handwritten notes you took at 10:30 at night while you were watching a show, but also considering county business, we don't ever really need to look at. It's just important to be aware that anything that we write down, anything that's recorded, any communications we're exchanging is going to constitute a public record, and it is discoverable by any members of the public who may serve a FOIA request for all documentation considering this issue. We're going to have to turn it over. Again, purpose of FOIA works hand in hand with the OMA to enforce transparency in government. What qualifies? This is all records, reports, forms, writing letters, memorandums. You've got the list. You can read it. I trust all of you to go through and take a solid look. It's anything that's going to pertain to the transaction of public business. And for all of your different committees, what that looks like is going to be different. Do's and don'ts. Please take them seriously. Understand that notes you take during open meetings are absolutely subject to FOIA. Stay aware that communications that are recorded in any way that touch upon public business or public records. Ask our office if you have questions. I've shared with a couple board members. I will always share again. I did have board members in Milwaukee who were texting during an open meeting. They had to turn over their phones because the minutes that were made during the meeting were requested under the Public Records Act. It was very embarrassing. It was not fun to have to tell them to do, but they did have to do it. So texting during meetings, emailing during meetings, anything you're doing that's touching upon public business, that if I'm watching from there, or if I'm watching from here, and it looks like that may pertain to public business, or if we're like passing notes, anything, those are all public records. I don't think anyone here wants to turn over their phone. It's not fun. So do or don't use your cell phone during public meetings. I understand they're nice to have on hand. That's cool. I would always say silence them, put them face down, or we all have emergencies. We have things going on in the family, put them face up if need be. If it's something to where an outside issue needs to be dealt with it and it really is 100% urgent, just excuse yourself. But using phones during public meetings is just, it's never a good idea. Even if you're not talking to anyone inside the meeting, it's going to lend that perception, which may make it discoverable under the FOIA Act. So nobody wants that. Yeah. Don't pass notes during public meetings. Don't blur the lines in between personal and business communication. I encourage this one a lot also because if I'm using my personal email address or my personal social media account to interact in the context of my role as a public official, I don't ever want a situation where someone says, well, in this one text message that I got, or in this one email, it says, hey, can you call me on my personal line, or can you email me here? You just open the door to all that personal communication being exposed, right? So I encourage everybody, if you can, if it's at all possible, and it's pretty easily possible, set up a standalone email address for transacting in the role as a public official and keep it squared away. Keep it very nicely designated from your personal stuff. So that way, in the event somebody does request something or we're looking for something, we know exactly where to find it and we know that no lines have been crossed. It's just nicer to keep it compartmentalized from our personal communications so we don't have any questions. And then don't create public records that you would feel uncomfortable disclosing pursuant to a FOIA request. I keep personal commentary, like any thoughts that are related to it, any chain of thinking you might have, any recommendations you might have. I've seen a lot of communications back and forth that are colored with snide remarks against fellow board members or fellow contractors that they're working with, and people kind of sprinkling in their personal opinion. It seems fine and it's okay until the outside wants to look at it, and all of a sudden we're quite embarrassed to disclose that information, right? So I trust you all. I know I've interacted with most of you at this point. Professionalism and transparency are paramount. So just recognize that at this point, I was coached early on in Milwaukee that in our roles as public officials, we live in a fishbowl. Everything we do is very highly observable because it has to be. That is the center point of the government we espouse here. So Open Meetings Act, everything's got to be open and observable. When it comes to public records, anything we write down, record, that touches upon public business is going to be discoverable. I always say, don't risk it. Don't roll the dice on whether or not. It's probably not likely someone down here is going to ask for all the personal correspondence from your phone because they saw you texting during a meeting. But it is possible, and I don't want to cross that bridge. You probably don't either. So just take everything seriously. If you have questions about anything whatsoever, please ask. It's always better to ask up front. There are no stupid questions when it comes to this, or annoying questions when it comes to this. Please fill my day with this stuff because it's way more fun for me than anything in the criminal world. This is really what I enjoy. So any questions you have, please don't hesitate to ask, and ask before the fact, right? If at all possible, you got something coming up, you're not sure, ask before the fact. Or if it's after the fact, it's better to ask too, right? If we've misstepped and we're aware of it, now we can take steps to cure it, and we can take steps to address it and handle it in a responsible and transparent way. Mistakes happen. Violations of this act happen. If we deal with them responsibly and in a transparent way, that's really the name of the game. So does anybody have any questions on the heels of any of that? Yes.
What does it look like for social media? For example, if I make a post and several members start commenting and it's out of my control?
If it's out of your control, that's fine. Don't participate in any subsequent chat. If you post something and we've got people commenting independently, it would still be very question marky if we're commenting on the same thing, we're showing a unified opinion, or like the way social media tends to go, we start to have a debate. If it relates at all to county business or anything very broadly that could be interpreted as county business, if it's a policy statement and all of a sudden we've got people commenting, it's a policy that it could affect things here. Say we're talking about the prosecution of a specific kind of crime or the expenditures of specific types of ARPA fund. Those things can be considered tangential to public business. So if you post that and something like that starts to happen, I would just abstain from commentary. You can pull the post, you can limit commenting on the post, and for any fellow board members who would engage in that, don't. Yes.
Hold on one second. I'm going to jump in real quick here just so that we get this up front. So the microphones that are in front of you, you have to speak into those. Otherwise, they don't pick up on the record here as we talk about being transparent, and then nobody will be able to hear what you're saying. So make sure when you do talk in the microphone, make sure you get in there. It's pretty sensitive. They'll be able to get you pretty far away, but just make sure you do that.
So if I see a county board member on the street and chat about county board business, as long as I'm not on the same committee that would be past a quorum, or there's enough of us, like, what was the number, 7 or whatever for the whole board, it's okay,
It
correct?
would be okay so long as you're not up to a quorum. I mean, you stated exactly correctly. If you run into a fellow board member who's on a different committee and there's one of each of you, neither of you is going to make up a quorum of your entire board, and neither of you is going to make up a majority of a quorum of the whole board.
Okay, thank
Be
you.
aware that transactions, though, like chain of event transactions, if you go and find one board member and they go and find another and you go and find another, and all of a sudden we're talking one at a time through a chain of events that constitute a conversation, see how that can spin off? It allows us to technically avoid the OMA, but that series of communications would culminate into a violation of the OMA. So it's going to be looked at holistically.
Okay,
Not that I think anybody would ever conspire to violate the Open Meetings Act, but again, something to be aware of.
thank you.
And that might be too far into the minutia. I trust all of you to recognize the rules, pay attention to them, and adhere to them, especially that cell phone rule. Yes,
I have a question. As part of Lee County Republican Central Committee, we gather on the meetings every month. How does the OMA or the FOIA come into place when, as you know, the majority of us are Republican?
if you're at that meeting together,
Yeah,
just don't talk about county business. It would have to be a meeting of a majority of the quorum or the quorum of that smaller committee. And you discuss business that's tangential to the county. I would be very, very highly aware of the matter of the conversation if you're all going to be at that meeting. No business tangential to the county. Anybody else?
So that brings into mind of, going off of Lyrham's, because the central committee has to talk about, they will talk about an appointment. We have a vacancy as we stand right now, and the central committee is going to be talking about the person who will fill that place. And how does that fall into that? Because I would think, that's county business, and it's also the responsibility of the central committee to do that.
When you talk about the central committee, you're referring to,
Yeah, the Republican Central Committee or the Democratic Central Committee, when there is because there's a lot of us that are either precinct committeemen and both precinct committeemen and county board members,
so,
and have that responsibility on the Central Committee.
so a non-county committee, which is going to have members of it that are a majority of a quorum or a quorum of a subcommittee, are going to be discussing a matter,
Potentially.
Yep, let me review it
Yep.
and dig into it and see what comparables I can find, and we'll get you an answer back.
Yep. And that's under statute. So when there's a vacancy, the party that member represented has the ability to make the nomination.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand, especially in smaller communities like that, we're going to have overlap. That's why I
Sure.
want to take a closer look at it so we can
Right.
give you the right answer.
Very good, thanks.
Anyone else? All right, I'm here for all your questions moving forward. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. So just quick follow-up on something that she said. You'll notice that when Becky or I send emails out to all of you, if we are very careful to blind CC, so that if you were to reply to all, it would not reply to all. Blind CC is what we use when we're communicating. If we want to send out something, an announcement to everybody, we'll blind CC it. That way you cannot violate the Open Meetings Act mechanically by just responding back to that email by replying to all. That's why you see that happening. Sometimes I know we've had board members comment on that. Why do you do that? That's why. So you can't reply to all and get a response out to everybody by design. So next up, we have County Treasurer Paul Rudolphi is going to give us a bit of an overview from a financial perspective. And Paul, I'm going to pull up your stuff here. Do you have anything you want? You want me to open all of them? There's the folder.
All right, good morning. I don't know if I can follow up after that. I mean, all I have is numbers for you. So I'm Paul Rodolfi. I know most of you. There are a few of you that I don't. I wanted to give you a little bit of background on myself so you guys had an idea of who your county treasurer is. So I have a degree in marketing, and everybody's going to go, oh my God, I thought I had an accounting degree. I also have a degree in accounting. So I started out with a small fastener company, decided sales was not what I wanted to do. Numbers always came easy to me. Went back to school, got an accounting degree. I spent 25 years at Motorola in their finance and accounting departments. So I do feel like I have quite a bit of knowledge when it comes to financial or accounting questions that you guys may have. I'm used to dealing with numbers. Most of those at Motorola were in the billions. These are in the millions. So just one couple less digits to work with. But I'm very comfortable with numbers. I'm very comfortable with the accounting and how that's structured, and maybe even, doing some analysis on where we're looking at in the future. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to come down to the office and we'll chat, or I can come to you guys at, whatever you need. So with that, I want to go over some of the county financials for you guys. Again, 14 of you or 13 of you probably know most of this, but the new board members maybe not. I thought it'd be a good idea for you to understand where do we stand today and what does it look like going in the future. So let's look here. So I'm going to open up. So this file is what we use. We actually, and it's not going to work for me because we're not hooked up to the, I didn't think about that. We're not hooked up to the internet. So, we'll go it on the fly. Is Becky here? No. Yeah, because what I was thinking is, can we do some quick copies like that?
And maybe you want to go through
That, and I'll do the demystifier while we're doing that. Yeah. So while we're making some copies, because I wanted to show you financials. Yeah, we'll switch. Oh, okay. This is something my predecessor put together. It's called a budget demystifier. So, and what this is it's kind of there and it's in your onboard, and it's a resource for all of you to kind of understand each of the funds that the county has available to it. So most of the time we're talking about our county general fund, but there are over 60 funds that are separated out in terms of animal control. There's the health department, there's the highway department. It gets down to tow fund, 911, a lot of different things. So what this is, so this is in your onboard. And what I want to talk about is the accounting structure that we have and what each of those segments mean. So as you see on the screen, you have three sections of your accounting structure. You have the fund, you have the department, and you have the account. So when we talk about the structure or a fund in our string of accounting numbers, the first three digits, FFF, are basically a fund number. So county general would be 001. The department, so like Nancy's department, county clerk and recorder is 001. So those first 6 digits under county general, 001, 001. Then the last 6 digits are accounts. Accounts are going to be the same for every fund. So if I have payroll under 5100013, Nancy's department's going to have that. My department's going to have that. The sheriff's department's going to have that. I can go, on down and down the line. So that's this. I'm pointing to the screen and you guys can't see what I'm pointing at. But that's the 3 sections here that I was just talking about. Kind of gives you a flavor for, hey, when I put financials in front of you and I got an account number there, you'll kind of know what that is, right? So under county funds, 001 is our county general. That is our corporate operating fund. The board has the spending authority, and that basically is budgeted every year. We go through a process of creating the budget, understanding our revenues and understanding our expenses. As you can see, real estate tax is part of the revenue, income tax, sales tax, any fees, and there any unrestricted revenue, and unrestricted would be probably interest earned on that money is also then funded back into it. That's unrestricted, and that's what this is. All of these are called. Once the county board approves a budget and moves the money out of general to a specific budget, that becomes a restricted fund, specifically if it's only for very specific things that you can spend it on. And you can see in here the uses for each fund. I'm not going to go through each fund for you guys on this. I mean, this is a document that's in your onboard. But what I do want to point out, and we can look at a few of them, and we can look here at 003, which is the indemnity fund. Now, the spending authority is the treasurer, and the revenues come from late real estate tax fees. So if somebody pays their taxes late, we're going to charge them a penalty. That penalty then can go into that fund. Now, one of the things that we use it for is a court-ordered sale in error. So at the end of each season, we'll sell any taxes that have not been paid by the property owner. If we've sold that and the tax buyer determines that, well, they feel like they've bought it under false pretense, they go and petition in front of the courts, and the courts will order us to refund them the money. So the funds that are used to pay them back come out of this indemnity fund. And where you'll find the information on that, as you notice, there's a statute reference. So one of the things, if you're ever having trouble sleeping at night and you need to fall asleep, start reading the Illinois statutes. Wow. I'm already into half of the treasurer ones, and they'll put you to sleep. But there is a lot of good information there, a lot of what you'll want to, how you can spend money, where you can appropriate, when you can spend the money. That type of information is there, and the uses of each fund. So there's a law library fund. I can go through this, but each one of these, this is like 17 pages long of funds, right? And they're all in here for you to take a review of if you had a question, if you were on the claims committee, and some of you may be, and I'm looking at Mike because I know Mike was doing it before and probably will do it again. But as you look at claims, there's going to be that accounting structure that we kind of went over as to what's being charged. Well, one of the things that you're going to be charged with is, hey, is this an appropriate spend for this fund? So one of the things you want to really do is make sure you understand this. This is a really nice, document. I know it's 17 pages long, but it does give you some good information. If you're new to the board, strongly recommend that you do your homework and look into this. If you're not new to the board and you haven't seen this or you haven't really looked at it, again, I strongly encourage you guys to, do some homework on it. So any questions on that? Yeah, go ahead.
What's the name of that document?
It's called the Budget Demystifier.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if you do a search on that, it should be there. For you.
Just for the board members, I had reminded, but it's in the resource folder.
You beat me to it, Jack. And to find the resource folder, when I get a chance, as soon as Paul's done here, I was going to actually walk you through some of the resources and tools that are out there in the resource folder and how to get to it. So I'll walk you through that in just a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. So Nancy passed out some information. I was hoping I could have it up on the screen, but I forgot. You got to be logged into my system through the computer, so it didn't work real well. And one of the things, you have an extra copy that I can. So in front of you, if you have the general fund revenues and expenses compared to budget, should be the top. That's basically the P&L that we put together for the Finance Committee. And really it is available to any board member. And as Stephanie kind of pointed out, it's also a FOIA-able document that anybody in the public can look at. So what I wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up, these are very preliminary numbers as of the end of November. So in our office over the last 2 years, what we've done is cleaned up so many accounts that we're able to almost give you a live real-time view of where you're at. And the only reason I say this is preliminary, at the end of the month, we do bank reconciliations and we don't have all the statements yet, but we've got most of them done. So I don't expect this to change, significantly. But what this shows is over the course of the year of 22, we had $16,490,000 worth of revenues in the general fund. That's the 001 fund. And we had budgeted 14.9 million. So we were 10% over, which is, it's a good place to be. But I will kind of, caveat that a little bit for all of you in a minute. Under the expenses, we had 14.3 million and we had budgeted 14.9. So we came in under budget. We kept our expenses, at least under budget, which gives us a surplus of $2.1 million. And that surplus is really capital, is what that is. It's in the past, and I was here in 2018, and we borrowed $600,000 out of our capital fund to fund the county general that you guys are seeing today. So what this shows is we've had somewhat of a turnaround, and we're able to at least have enough revenue to support our expenses. And if we keep our expenses lower than our budgeted, we're doing ourselves a favor. So one of the things that the next page that I wanted to point out to you, then it should be the Lee County cash balances. So again, this is something we give to the Finance Committee each month. Now, this is where I'm going to give you guys a big caveat here. So the first three items on here, general fund, capital fund, and the solid waste fund. Those three are unrestricted county funds, meaning we can spend them on what we need to and what you guys approve. There's $12.9 million there. And you would think, oh my God, we're loaded with cash. But in reality, we're not. As you go back to this P&L page and you look at the expenses, it takes 14.3, 14.5 minimum just to run the county general account in the county. So basically you have a reserve is what I would call that. And one of the things that I want you guys to start thinking about is how much money do I need in these reserves on a yearly basis in case these revenues don't come in, because they're not a guarantee. I mean, we all say death and taxes are the only thing guaranteed in life. Well, when I look at this revenue, you have real estate taxes. Yes, that comes in, but that was only $6 million of the 16 million that came in. And so the other 10 million of that is state sales tax, fees. There is a state tax that's personal property replacement tax that is basically a business tax on business that has gone up threefold in the last 3 years. And my predecessor and I have been working to find out why that's up. Most of that, from what we can determine, would be all of the government money, and when I say government, federal money, like ARPA, the American Rescue Plan, all of the PPP, all of that money that came into the states in 2020 was huge. And that money now we're seeing in a return in state taxes. So I guess where I'm saying is that's not a guarantee. That's not always going to be coming like that. I want to make sure you guys understand that. Just in Lee County alone, back in 2020, there was $70 million that came into Lee County businesses under the PPP Act. So that's quite a bit. So anyway, the cash balances, they're broken out by different funds, and some of them will say restricted. As you're seeing, there's $35 million that are basically in different bank accounts that we try to invest where we can, make some good interest, so that, that's basically free money for us that we can use. Some of it is restricted, and what I mean by that is in the column next to the name is some of the ideas for that. Like circuit clerk funds has 1.5 million, but it's restricted to dock storage, automation, child support, operations. So it's very restricted. It's not like it can come back and support the county general if we needed that. Under the sheriff funds, there's DUI fund, inmate medical, commissary, a drug, vehicle, and tow fund. So those are restricted to the sheriff's use. You cannot bring that money back to county general. So that's what I wanted to just kind of go briefly over on that with you. Probably the last sheet is there's a revenue and expenses compared to budget. And these are funds that are outside of county general, but they are county board regulated, if you will. You guys vote, you guys determine what kind of spending. Well, the first one on there is solid waste. And if you notice at the bottom, it has a $2 million balance, and that's by design. The county has a resolution or an ordinance that says we will keep at least $2 million in that fund for the solid waste or the landfill when that closes, when that comes, if we have any problems, you have EPA issues, things like that, that's what that's to be used for. The public safety fund is the fund we produced when we started the new jail. It is supported by tax revenue, sales tax revenue. It's got you notice it's got a negative balance. That's because we have inter-fund loans that we still need to pay off. And what I mean by an inter-fund loan is we borrowed money from capital to help pay the final value or portion of the value of the build and the F&E on the prison or the LEC. Highway funds, they're used, Dave Anderson does a nice job making sure his team has what they need, but those are funds strictly used. But you guys also are there to appropriate that money. The health department gets an allotment from the general fund. So those are the funds that they have. And then animal control is on there as well. Anyway, those are just some of the financials that we produce for the finance team, but they're here for any one of you. If you ever had a question, hey, where do we stand on this? What's your projections for where you think we're going to be next year? We do have those. I try to make sure that those are up to date. I'm always looking for how, in my role, what I would like to do is how do I make sure I have enough funds available to keep this county running? And if that means I need to find a way to find more revenue, or do I need to give a recommendation on how do we reduce costs, we may have to go that way. Anyway, that's what I had. That's most of this. The other thing on this list here on the screen is the fiscal year budget. And I just wanted to really point out the county general side of it. So this is the budget that was passed last month. And in it, you'll have, this is actuals from 21. These are the 22-year budget. And then here's the 23 budget that we just passed. And this should be, correct me if I'm wrong, this is available in their resources as well. But really what I'm looking, so remember we went through the account structure there. So 001, 000 is countywide. There is no department attached to that. It's countywide. And then these are the account structures. And then these are the definitions of that. So we do get county sales tax, countywide sales tax. These are all the different taxes and fees that make up that P&L that you guys saw earlier. And there's a page and a half of them in terms of we split them out, trying to make sure that we give you an accurate view of exactly what's coming in. And then, of course, we also have on the back side of that, the expense side, all the different expenditures, health insurance, county clerk. So this would be like Nancy's department. These are all of her expenses that she has in that department. Circuit clerk, treasurer. But what I really wanted to show you on this was at the bottom of the page, well, page 9, and you can see so I'm going through all of these different accounts, right? And they're all different departments, if you will. But at the end of the day, this is what I wanted to show you right here. This is the budget. It's balanced. We have $173 overture, if you will. So it is absolutely balanced for 23. We didn't have to borrow. We didn't have from the capital. Right now, we're expecting that all of our revenues should support our expenses. So if you have any questions on the budget, or if there's something that doesn't make sense, I have to remind myself, yeah, I'm a numbers guy, so numbers completely make sense to me. And for some people, that's not the case. If you have any questions, come see me. I would love to explain them to you and, walk them through with you. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Friel.
Question, I'm new to this, but I don't see lots covered in any of this. Is that a separate entity from everything else?
They are a separate entity. Let me give you an example. And I can show you they are actually budgeted. So it's on this budget report that's up on the screen, and I'll show that to you. But in that cash balance, they're part of the grants funds. So on that, there's $5.5 basically $1 million worth of grants in there. They're part of that, but I will give you that 3.9 to 4 of that 5.4 is American Rescue money that's still out there. But lots is out in there. It's I didn't give it to you on the paperwork in front of you, but if you want to come down and see it, I can show it to you. And it's at the bottom of this, of the budget. It's their fund numbers. They actually have 5. They start with 374 and end at 379. So
Okay.
those are those fund numbers that you'd want to look for in that budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, Mr. Sheeline.
And just to follow up on your question, the lots, last month, we finally got that resolution done with the creation of the mass transit district. And that's going to move that portion of lots out of our balance sheet and out of our portfolio completely, which from my perspective, ever since I've been on the board, lots has a unique, is a unique entity from the aspect of how it's funded and also how it expends its dollars. And I am very much, as a finance chairman, I am very much a happy camper. And I think Tom Kitson is, and Mike Opine is as well, to see that move on its own, because the dollars that flow through lots actually exceeds the whole county budget. And as it stands right now, we're responsible for that. And that's not really something that I've ever felt real comfortable with. So that moves that. The other thing, just want to follow up with Paul. So Paul talks about the budget and the numbers and the reports that we get as the finance committee. If any of you want, and the one thing as finance committee, and we're going to have this conversation next Thursday, is that there is no dumb questions. Whether you're an old board member or whether you're a new board member and there is an area that you don't understand or never did get questions for, please approach me, approach Paul, Wendy. I mean, Wendy, to let you know, is, and I don't want, Jennifer Boyd, of course, is our supervisor assessment, but we have a resource in Wendy as on how to explain how the tax, how do we get that? You see that number of the property tax, but how do we get there? How do the pieces all flow to get to that number of property taxes? And it is extraordinarily complicated on the moving pieces, from the assessments to that creates the EAV that becomes how we levy and how we create the levy, and then we pass it and it's presented to the board. It's not that we have to be experts in this. We have people, Paul, Wendy, Jennifer, we have people that we have on staff that know this stuff frontwards and backwards. But as board members, we do have a responsibility to have some literacy in regards to how this stuff is put together. So I really encourage everybody to ask questions of our staff, ask questions of the finance committee, ask questions individually. And let me, there is no, when it comes to this stuff, there is no dumb questions. So that's just my comment.
I would absolutely agree with that statement. I consider myself somewhat of I like to teach it, if you will. If you have questions about Excel, I love Excel. So we can teach you a few things as well. So.
Hey, Paul.
Yes.
How about you give the board members an overview of the monthly documents that they will see from your department that they will approve at the full county board meeting? So the claims reports, and et cetera, is where I was heading.
So you will, okay, yeah. So you'll see claims report is basically all the expenditures that we've used through the system, meaning every invoice that the county has paid out for the most part. The only time that we don't really see true expenditures flowing through the board would be like Shelley's 911. She actually has her own board that approves that, and they pay it through a different bank account. And then there's also payroll. So you'll see a payroll expense report from our office that you guys are approving. You will see some of the weekly, well, there's weekly claims and then there's monthly claims. You'll see you're already approving your board per diems, but those get paid out through our office. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones.
How about the quarterly treasurer's report? What does that consist of?
Yeah, that's basically this P&L that you saw. And it's on a quarter basis that we run through finance. It's approved and then approved then through the board in total. So that's why I wanted to show all of you these financial documents in the sense that I want you to be able to get yourself familiar with them, understand the role of a fund, understand what department spends what. So that if you have questions, you can come to me. And even if you don't know what department it is, we'll figure it out between the two of us, I'm sure. 3, 4. We just won't violate the Open Meetings Act, but.
And these monthly revenue and expenditure reports that you'll find on your agendas each month are also posted on the public agenda. So these items are very transparent and out there in terms of the monthly bills we pay, the monthly payroll we pay, and the revenue that we bring in on a month-to-month basis is attached to your agenda and also out there on the public's agenda. Any other questions for Paul?
Yes.
As part of the treasurer's role, do you keep an asset list for the county?
We do not, well, yes, there is an assets list and it's actually audited once every 3 years. So it's updated, on a tri-year basis.
I will just add to that, Angie, that the county administrator's office keeps an asset list in that we annually review a list of assets for insurance purposes. So the list that Paul has, I believe there's a threshold, a dollar amount threshold. Mine gets a little bit more minute. And you're not going to find every single computer listed, but you're going to find it a pretty granular report that goes each year to our insurance company so they can provide us the insurance quotes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm next. So just give me a minute to regroup here and pull up a couple things. So just a quick update. I know I've met most, if not all of you as of this morning. So Wendy Ryerson, County Administrator. So I'm going to go through a couple of things here that are going to be a little bit more granular, specific to your board rules. I do have the PowerPoint up here, but you should also find it if you're in your meeting, actual meeting. I did attach it to your meeting agenda, so you can look for it there. I am going to go through a number of things. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about, hit some highlights of the board rules and procedures to give everybody a reminder. And this is, honestly, this is going to be for my returning board members as well as my new ones, because we just adopted some new rules and it's going to change some things going forward. So this, again, this may seem like to my returning board members old hat, but pay attention because there have been some changes that are going to be key here. We're going to talk about, for example, one of the things that's going to change is the remote attendance. In-person attendance, voting. For those returning board members, you know that for the last year since we've gotten on board, it's been a key strategic plan of mine to use your tablets for actual voting, meaning that every vote that will be taken will be a roll call vote. So your name will be associated with every vote that you take for every meeting that you attend. There's going to be some rule changes to that as to how we do it. For December, the month of December, we're going to be using this as a practice. I hope to go live with the actual voting in January. Just a little background. We're going to talk a little bit more about executive closed sessions as it pertains to, Stephanie covered some things in the Open Meetings Act this morning, but we're going to be talking about your own board rules. We're going to be talking about some words of wisdom from a former board member and attorney, and Charlie alluded to that earlier today. I have also attached that to your agenda. So Jim Horstman was an attorney and former board member, and he felt like there were some words of wisdom he could pass along to all of you. So he wrote something up, and Charlie has reviewed it, and we've distributed it out to you for your review. I'm going to go through just a very high level, some onboard things. I know my returning board members have been using this for about a year now, so it may feel like old hat. But I bet you $1 million to some things in here that you didn't realize were there. Primarily because Becky and I are learning more and more about the software, and we're learning how to use that resource folder to put things out there for you. So we're going to talk with an overview of onboard. We're going to talk about some other resources, and then we're going to go through just a 3 to 5 minute introduction of some of your department heads that you'll be working with. We've got some new department heads, and I thought it would be a good plan for them to introduce themselves and give a high-level overview of what their department is all about. So with that said, let's launch right into the board rules. So your board rules and the Open Meetings Act does allow for remote attendance. The board, through the COVID process, learned to embrace having individuals attend remotely. Again, that was largely pushed upon us by COVID, but over time, the board determined that that was a good, transparent way to conduct business, and they have codified that now into their board rules. So we will always allow remote attendance following the Open Meetings Act rules if a board member has a personal illness or disability and is therefore unable to attend in person. If for employment purposes or business of the board, they happen to be traveling, they can attend remotely. Or if they have a family or other emergency, they can attend the board meeting remotely. They can attend your onboard, as you've all discovered by now. You have your tablets in this room. You're welcome to take your tablets home with you. We'll have you check them out. Or you can access onboard using your phone or a desktop or your own tablet or your own laptop if you're not in this room. If you intend to attend remotely, you need to let us know. So the board rules are written right now that you need to let your committee chair, or in the case of the full board meeting, your board chair know in advance of the meeting. This is critical, especially for the committee meetings, because if we don't have a physical quorum, in other words, enough people in the room physically to get to a quorum, then we can't have a meeting at all. So it won't matter if you're all out there attending remotely. We have to have that quorum in-house. If we discover that we don't have a physical quorum in the room, we can adapt to that. Board member Tom Kitson, new vice chair, has been very adaptable to coming in at the last minute to helping us get a chair, but we can't do that if we don't know in advance. So that is a critical piece of allowing you to attend remotely. Number one, you have to meet the top three priorities there, or criteria, excuse me, from the Open Meetings Act, but you also, according to our board rules, have to call in advance and get that permission from the county or the committee chair or the board chair. That's a critical part of it. Now, if you haven't done that, or if you're just a board member and you're not even assigned to a particular committee, you're always welcome to dial in. You're welcome to dial in anytime you want. You just aren't going to get the opportunity to vote if we don't know ahead of time that you're not going to be here and you're on that committee. Okay? This is a new one too for my returning board members. Members must ensure that they're visible via video. In the past, it was enough to be on audio. Now that we're going to be using tablets, or if you're at home, your laptops to actually vote, we need to know it's you pushing the vote button. We need to make sure it's not somebody else pushing the vote button. So you need to be visibly present. Now, if you're attending remotely for one of the three reasons there, and you need to step away for a minute to get a cup of coffee, you can certainly turn off the camera. But what you cannot do is come back in and participate in the meeting and vote if that camera isn't on. So plan ahead if you're going to be participating remotely, and make sure you have audio and video available to you. Members are all responsible for the connection to get into the meeting. If you're traveling, we can't help it if your connection isn't the greatest. If you're traveling down the road, I would hope you wouldn't be driving, but if you're on the road and your connection isn't the greatest, we can't be responsible for whether or not you cannot get connected. We're not going to stop the meeting if you're not able to get connected, audio and video. So again, make sure that you have a connection that is going to keep you connected to the meeting. And last but not least, the chair, whether it be the committee chair or the board chair, if your connection is disruptive, they can ask for it to be muted, or we'll ask you to mute yourself. Because again, we don't want that remote attendance to be a disruption to the rest of the meeting that's happening in the room. Katie.
Hi. So in regards to the remote attendance, we're number 2, employment purposes. Can that be if you're not traveling for work, but you work from home and you are still allowed to attend a committee meeting? And
I'm going
vote?
to turn this question over to Charlie, State's Attorney Charlie, for his, but my take on that, you noticed I shook my head right away, Charlie. Love it when I set him up like that. You can disagree if you want.
Sorry, I'm trying to grab the microphone. It's my opinion that this is going to be an exception if you have to go out of town for business. If it's something like Miss Allen works at the bank, I believe, if she's at the bank and doesn't want to travel out here, whatever it may be, unless there's some type of storm or something going on, I think she'd still be required to appear.
So like just your day job
Correct.
does not count.
That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that topic? All right. So in-person attendance, if you are going to be here in person, this is a request of Becky and I and Jonathan, who some of you met this morning, our IT person. It is really challenging leading up to a meeting when we are trying to get the meeting set, the microphones out, tablets out, our own stuff ready to go. If you come in at the last minute at the 1 minute before or 1 minute after the hour and your tablet isn't working, it can put a lot of stress on us. So we're asking for you to make sure and be here. Our request is 15 minutes early. Get your tablets up and running. Again, this may not have been important over the last year because you could follow along on the screen, for example. But now that we're going to be shifting to voting using your tablets, we need to make sure those tablets are working. So now we're asking that you come in at least 15 minutes in advance of any meeting. Get your tablet up and running. Make sure you can get logged in. We've had countless challenges over the last year of people not able to log in, can't remember their password, whatever it may be. We can accommodate and we can adjust, but we need a little time to do that. So give us a little time to do that, please. As I said earlier, the tablets are board-issued tablets. You're borrowing them. When you leave the board, you'll leave them back with us and we'll repurpose them. You are welcome to take these home if this is your only means or the best means you have to follow along. All of you have been experiencing, I'm sure even my new board members, the emails that get sent out from the board chairman's office when agendas are ready to go. We're going to send you out an email that says, hey, this such and such agenda is ready to go so you can look at it. If that's this tablet is your only way to do that, by all means, take the tablet home, do your homework ahead of the meeting. Absolutely. We are going to ask you to go through a bit of a check out and check in process though, because believe it or not, we've had some tablets get lost over the last year. They did eventually turn up, but it took us weeks and sometimes months to find them. So we just want to know if you're taking it home, we want it on record, you've taken it home versus you're leaving it with us. And then we're going to know it's on us to figure out what happened to that tablet. We have a charging station that's somewhere over here that will charge all of these at one time. So we'll take care of keeping it charged. We are even going to be getting them out and putting them on your desks, or in the case of the committee meetings, for my new board members, committee meetings tend to happen up here around this table. We're going to get them out for you and have them ready to go when you get in the room. You just need to log into your own and pull it up. But again, we're going to follow a process of checking them out and checking them back in if you take them home, just so we can keep track of them. Voting. So again, we're looking in January to change the way we do business going forward. So there is a couple in your board rules, a couple rules regarding this. So attendance will always be by voice roll call vote. So you heard Nancy going through roll call this morning, literally listing off each of your names, and you say that you're present. That is a way to get on record that you are here, specifically that you are here. Your board rules now allow for a voice vote to be taken for a motion to adjourn, approval of the minutes of the prior meeting, adopting an agenda, or any items that is determined by the committee or board chair. So in other words, you still have the option to do a voice vote, as you saw used this morning here, where you just all say yay or nay. However, on the votes that have substance behind them, we're going to be using these tablets. In other words, we're going to go to this digital version of a roll call vote. So that's the last bullet point there. All other votes shall be individually entered and recorded electronically. I refer to that as the electronic roll call vote. So that's now in your board rules to allow this type of voting. Those board rules, by the way, took effect that the returning board members probably remember we voted on them about 3 to 4 months ago. They went into effect December 1. So Electronic roll call voting. This is for everybody because we haven't really done this yet, returning and new board members. This is how the process is laid out in your board rules. So the clerk, and that could be the county clerk for your full board meeting. The county clerk is the clerk for the full board meeting. In the committee meetings, the smaller meetings, Becky Brenner is the meeting clerk. So that clerk, whoever it may be, records the motion in Onboard and it will display up here on one of the screens. And the chair officially then opens the voting. That's after we have a motion on the second on the table, obviously, they're going to open the voting. We are going to try, for those motions that we're aware are coming forward, we're going to try to have at least draft versions of these motions already prepared and in Onboard. You all may want to change the motion slightly, and we'll on the fly then the meeting clerk will change the motion and it'll display again up here on this screen so you can see exactly what it says. It's also going to display, by the way, on your tablet. So the chair opens the voting once that motion is finalized. And you as a member will respond using your tablet, or if you're at home, your desktop, your laptop, whatever it is. You're going to respond yes, no, or abstain using that onboard tablet. The chair is going to allow sufficient time for members to vote. I don't know what that is right now. It might be different per each topic, but he's going to allow sufficient time. He may do what Nancy did this morning here, which is to call a second time, have all votes been taken, have all votes been taken, and then the chair will officially close that vote out and instruct the clerk to record the vote. I just noticed I don't have either of my meeting clerks in the room. You know, they're not hearing these instructions. I'll have to get with them later. The clerk then is going to report, and Onboard is going to automatically tally the yes votes, the no votes, and the abstain votes. And it will display again up on this screen. So you're going to, not only will you see it, but the public will be able to see every one of those votes, with the exception of the voice votes that I just told you about on the prior page. So upon the close of the voting, and this is important, we have to tie off the voting. We can't have someone after the fact going, wait a minute, I messed up. By the way, we tested this a little bit earlier in a couple committee meetings, and you can say yes, oh, wait a minute, I didn't mean to say yes, I meant to say no. You can toggle back and forth, but when the chairman calls for the vote to close, you better make sure your vote's in there, because you don't get to change your vote after the chairman calls for the vote to be closed. That's an important key part of this. So upon the close of the voting and the announcement of the results, no vote changes will be entertained, because once again, we have to tie this vote off somehow or another. All right?
Wendy,
Yes.
when the votes show up on the screen, will it be by name or just by number?
By name.
Okay.
Now, one of the things we didn't know when we started down this path about a year ago is that our screens are landscape and not portrait. So the first few people, the Reed Acres on the top of the list, are going to always appear on the screen first, and the clerk will have to scroll down and show the other votes. Of course, obviously, ultimately, the clerk will record in the minutes of the meeting those roll call votes. By the way, they'll transfer over electronically into those minutes documents. So the clerk won't have to type everybody's name each time and record. It's going to automatically transport into the minutes document. But yeah, it will show on the screen with the name. The clerk of the meeting will have to kind of scroll down to show people at the bottom of the list, because we can't fit everybody on the screen at once. Not really what I was happy about, but we've decided we can't fix it. So, all right. Stephanie hit just a little bit lightly on executive closed sessions. You have board rules, and this is under the Open Meetings Act. So there's the state law, Open Meetings Act law on this, and then there's your board rules. We essentially codified the state law for the most part. There are a couple board rules that I'll highlight as I go through here. So obviously the Open Meetings Act, also known as OMA, allows for exceptions to the public meeting requirement. So there are times and there are exceptions. I won't list them all right now, just to give you a good example, or one example though. If we found ourselves in a lawsuit, we could go behind closed doors and discuss that without being an open session. So that's just one example. There are a number of exceptions as to when we can go behind closed doors. That's one. So there is that allowance in certain situations. So a meeting or a portion thereof will be closed to the general public. We are required by Open Meetings Act state statute to take a verbatim record of that closed session. So there will be a recording of that closed session. And that record is made available only upon the board determining that it's no longer necessary to protect the public interest. I will tell you that State's Attorney Boonstra has played a key role in that in terms of advising the board about whether or not it is appropriate to release those records or not. So he will advise you as to when it's appropriate to release that. But it's a process that we will go through a couple times a year. The board will consider whether or not we release any previously closed records, and with State's Attorney Boonstra's recommendation, we'll do that. So this gets into your board rules, although it's probably also in the Open Meetings Act as well. Obviously, things that are said behind closed doors, with this exception, need to stay behind closed doors. So all matters discussed shall be kept confidential by all members or anyone in the room until that closed record has been available. That's an important point. It's also important to note that we will record the meeting because statutorily we are required to, but no one else is allowed to record those meetings. Any questions about executive closed sessions? All right, I'm going to hit just a little bit on the document that is attached in your on board. And it was the document that former board member Jim Horstman wrote. Charlie did review this document and authorized it to be disseminated out to you guys. As I said, Jim Horstman was a former attorney. When he came on the board, he had commented numerous times that he felt just a bit lost, that he wished he'd had a little bit more guidance when he came on the board as to what to expect. And so I challenged him to write some things down. What would you, now having been on the board, what would you say to new board members? And this is the document that he came up with. I'm just going to hit on a couple things. Documents in there, I highly recommend that you read through it. I'll hit on a couple things, as I said. So first and foremost, be informed. Fortunately for all of you in today's environment, you have lots of ways to be informed. You can certainly attend meetings physically. But we also, if we haven't covered it already, we also do go out on Zoom, and the Zoom meeting is live streamed out. So it's live and also recorded and saved. For any of you who want to go back and look at prior board meetings, you can go to Lee County IL YouTube, and all the meetings are out there for you to review. So as a board member, you want to get informed on a particular topic and you want to know what the committee's recommendation was and what it was based on, you can read minutes of the committee, you can go look at YouTube, or you can come on in here physically and participate in what's going on with the meetings. Another way that you can stay informed, and as a former department head myself, this was always something that I really appreciated. If you have a question about something in a particular department or a particular recommendation that a department is making, by all means, pick up the phone and call them. It is helpful for you to ask questions during committee and board meetings, but it's way more helpful if you ask outside of that, because if you came to me and asked a question, I don't have my resources at my fingertips that I can pull something up and look it up and go, definitively, this is what's going on. I'm going to have to tell you in the middle of a meeting. I'll get back to you on that. So if you want me to be prepared at the meeting, call me ahead of time. Send me an email. I know the other departments would appreciate that as well. So get informed by talking to your departments, attending meetings, going out on YouTube. Stephanie already covered a number of issues with, but she didn't cover this one. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. Avoid private meetings or conversations with persons who are seeking favorable rulings. Oftentimes this might be a zoning request or a zoning ordinance. Avoid those. Avoid the appearance of improper influence on a board member. You will often get individuals contacting you asking for your support on something. Avoid those at all costs, so you avoid the appearance of any sort of undue influence. Jim's advice also was to consider the evidence or testimony that's presented, considered impartially, objectively, and without bias. But he also considered it to be proper for you to analyze the evidence and testimony in light of your own personal education or experience in common sense. So he would often, take into account and consider the evidence that's presented, but take into account his own personal experiences that may or may not help him understand how to approach a particular topic or issue. Conduct. Jim addressed conduct in his comments, and it was very important to him, and I would agree with this, that you make every effort to attend all of the meetings that you are specifically assigned to. Of course, again, I already told you, you have the option of going back, and if you can't attend, to go back and review YouTube and other ways to get caught up. That wasn't always the case. It wasn't the case when Jim Horstman first came on board, for sure. But make every effort. Not only does it assist us with having that physical quorum in the room and being able to conduct business, but it helps you be informed as a board member. So again, as I've said, meetings are generally open to the public, with the exception of those closed sessions or executive sessions. But this is something that Jim didn't put in that I'm adding on. As I've said several times now, these meetings get streamed out onto YouTube. So Jim's words of wisdom were to be careful with your conduct and your words. And I'm adding to that because now it's not just what's said or done in this room. It's something that's out there on YouTube that will come back to haunt you potentially time and time again, because the public can play and replay and replay. And I'm speaking from my own personal observation of that. There are times when I'm like, wow, I really wished I hadn't said that. So be careful, be cautious. Be professional. These are going out and being recorded and saved out there on YouTube. All right, that takes me to Onboard. And I am going to actually turn on Onboard here. Hang tight. So my version of Onboard might look slightly different. Close that. Only because I have administrative rights to this, so I kind of have the broad access to everything. But generally speaking, I'm going to take you through some things that I think you will find useful in Onboard. So if you go to the house, and I'm going to try and circle here and draw your attention to what I'm, by the way, if you click on this little hamburger patty stack, it will broaden this out and you'll actually have the words next to it if you want to do that. If you like more screen over here, which I typically do, you can click on that hamburger patty again and close that up and you'll only have the little icons. So the first one is what we refer to as the dashboard page. And so it is essentially your page. Any of your upcoming meetings are going to be right there, quick and accessible. So for example, here's the organizational meeting. If you click on that, it's going to take you into the agenda for this organizational meeting. And again, this is going to be high level, guys. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. This is, I'm hoping, enough to make you dangerous when you go back home and start clicking around on things. So there's a list of the upcoming committee meetings that we have going on. Oops, I clicked on that dashboard. So the other thing that's on your dashboard is a section called supplementary materials. And so in here are some of the important documents that you've heard individuals speak about this morning. So for example, here's a board organizational structure. So it kind of shows the committees that we've envisioned. Taking a second to load here. And then the various departments that actually report to those committees. So if you go in there and click on that, you can kind of see which departments are going to come to your committee meetings. And for my returning board members, once again, this is changed. We changed the committee structure. So this is reorganized a bit. So you might want to get familiar with that. Also under there is your board rules and procedures. You've heard me talk about those now. If you click on that, you can actually delve into what do our board rules say on this topic. Then I've got some links in here. So all of our county codes, so zoning code, liquor commission, there's a lot more than that, none of which are coming to my mind right now, but all of our codes are being hosted out on a third-party vendor. called American Legal Publishing. So if you ever want to delve into a zoning code, a specific zoning code, or our county financial policies, you're going to click on that. And it'll take, I don't want to do it because it might take a while to load here, but it'll click through every code that the county board has approved and how we treat these various topics. The demystifier is the document that Paul showed you a few minutes ago that explains the tool that explains not only the account numbering system, but it also goes through those the various funds and who has the legal spending authority and the statute associated with that legal spending authority, because sometimes the spending authority is restricted on what they can spend it on. So that's that tool that Paul was showing you earlier is out there. The employee handbook. Yes, we have a handbook for employees out there. If you ever want to know how we handle vacation time, sick time, what are our hours, that's out there in the employee handbook. Financial policies and procedures. This was a recently adopted document by the county board. Tells us how we process everything from our audits to our financial policies. That is a good document to read up on for my returning and new board members because that's all new. There's a link out there to the Lee County website. On the website will be a lot more information about various departments. The budgets are published out there. That website is what the public can get to access all this stuff. Everything I'm showing you right here in Onboard is just for you. Most of this stuff gets out there on the website. If you ever want to get to the website, you can click on that link. Then there's a couple resources there's essentially two county board affiliations or professional organizations across the state of Illinois. One is the Illinois Association of County Board Members, and the other one is known as United Counties Council of Illinois. That is a link to their website. They are a great resource outside of this county for a variety of things. And we do have some representatives that will be appointed to represent us and bring back information from those two professional organizations. But if you ever want to go out to their website and see what's out there, that's a link to get you there. There's another board rules and procedures. You can click there. This is where meeting dates and times will be posted. And this might be the old one because you just approved the new one. But this is where if you ever want to get to a PDF where you can actually print out the meeting dates and kind of go into your work schedule and save these all out and plan ahead, that's where you can go to get that meeting schedule. County board member contact list. I'm not sure if this is the looks like it's the revised one here. So if you're looking for some contact information in a in a printable PDF, it's out there. It's got contacts so you can contact your fellow board members if you should want to. That's everything under dashboard, which was quite a bit. Calendar is pretty self-sufficient. The calendar is going to scroll you through all the meetings. What is different about this calendar than what you just saw a minute ago on the dashboard? The dashboard is going to show you the meetings coming up. This will show you all the past meetings. So if you ever want to go back to the past and go, what did we do or say at a prior meeting? You can scroll down and go backwards in that and pull up those prior meetings, okay? Notifications. This is a tool that we didn't use a whole lot last year, but we hope to in the future. We can send you a notice that says, hey, Nancy, we need you to do your Open Meetings Act training. So right within this software program, we could be sending you a notification about something that we wanted to let you know about right within this platform. Once again, we have to be careful about Open Meetings Act, so we're going to be careful when we do that, but we could send something directly to a single board member. The other biggest folder in here is called that, you've heard us refer to it as the resource folder. And we've gotten more sophisticated over the last year with how we use this tool. So for my returning board members, if you haven't been in there for a while, I suggest that you do. We have deliberately labeled the very first folder in there with a number 1 so that it will always appear at the top of your screen in the resource folder. And inside that folder is going to be a lot of the things I already showed you from the dashboard page. So it's links to the various websites, it's the employee handbook, the demystifier document, et cetera, and et cetera. So that is a resource for you to go to that should always appear at the top of the resource folder list. 2023 fiscal year budget documents. We use this over the summer for various drafts of the budget. But inside here now is, for those of you who are trying to follow along with Paul up on the screen here, inside here is a folder labeled approved budget and levy documents. And there's your 2 documents. So if you ever want to go back and see what did we approve for a budget, that's where it's at. You'll see that I'm navigating around here by clicking the back button. I didn't really explain that. There are other, I'm going to go back one more step. There are many other folders in here. Sometimes we have documents that are going to be restricted from the public. They might be draft versions that we want to put out to you. So you will see this folder labeled committee only docs. And so if you click on that and then you go into the committee, which we're still working on setting up, by the way, and let's just say you served on executive committee, you could go in there and in there might be a draft document for your eyes only, for the executive committee's eyes only. As we're working through the drafts, we can post that there. So that's what the committee only document is set up for. Employee-related documents are other things like the employee handbook, full board only docs. Once again, if this is something for full board. And probably the only other one I really want to point out here is zoning and planning. Zoning and planning ends up out of the zoning and planning committees with a lot of documents to push out to you, whether they be minutes, whether they be transcripts. These documents, we are setting up to use the zoning and planning folder to try and keep all of those documents, not just for the purpose of you using them in the meeting that you're being presented with a question or a motion on, but rather so that you will have them for future reference to go back and look at something. What did we do? And why did we do it? The transcripts will be out there, the minutes will be out there, and again, it'll be a historical reference spot for you guys. Directory. This is a directory. Like I said, Reed, here you are at the top again. The directory is all of your board members and thought maybe we had, oh, yep, we do. We've got some contact information in there. This directory includes all the board members as well as Charlie Boonstrom, myself, Becky, and Clerk Nancy Peterson. These are the individuals that are allowed access into onboard or for whether because you're a member or because we're an administrator working behind the scenes. So contact information is out there if you ever need it. And, oh, one other thing, clear at the bottom, you'll notice the WR clear at the bottom here. That stands for, in my case, Wendy Ryerson. You all should have your own initials that show up there. And if you go into your profile, this is where you could change your password if you wanted to, or I believe you can delve into here a little deeper, although I didn't do my homework enough to be able to go right to it. But if you get tired of getting all of those emails that the agendas are ready, this is a place where you can go in and you can shut that off. You just on your own initiative, go in and actually look at those agendas. You don't need to get all the emails if you don't want to. This is a location where you can go and shut that off if you choose to. So that is a very, very high level. I do want to do one other thing, and that is I'll go into the calendar. Once again, I'll go to the county board organizational meeting, which is our meeting for today. And I do want to point out one thing for our new board members. If you literally go and open the book, that's up towards the top before the agenda starts, you can open the book. And what it will do is it will prepare an agenda. You notice how the agenda items are here on the left side. This is a good time for me to close that out. So you can see the agenda items to the left and the associated documents will display on the right. So this is a really good working way to move yourself through the agenda during meetings because you can see what's next on the agenda and you can also see documents that are associated with that. There are some tools in here that I'm not going to go into right now. You can click around and test them out, or anyone new or returning that wants some more tutorial on this, be sure to let us know. We're happy to spend some time with you if you need to. With that said, does anyone have any questions on the topic of the onboard app itself? All right. Speaking of the agenda here. All right, so back to the PowerPoint here, couple resources, and these are in Onboard. I've already covered them. I'm just reminding you that there's some website links out there, including the Lee County website and our Lee County Code Library, which again is under that third-party vendor known as American Legal Publishing. There's also some Lee County policies that are out there if you're looking to know what's our policy on this internally. The board rules, financial and accounting, the demystifier Paul referred to, and the employee handbook are all out there in Onboard. Other resources, and there's probably a million of them, but for purposes of today, what I wanted to disseminate out to you is that Becky Brenner, who I believe most of you have all met by now. Becky is the board administrative assistant. Please take note of her office direct line. By the way, if you're looking at the PowerPoint in Onboard, I just added this morning, so you won't have her office direct line or her cell out there. Becky will share with us probably in a couple of minutes, but I will just add to that Becky makes herself very accessible to board members with questions. I will just warn you that if you email her over the week or text her over the weekend and she's busy with other things, you may or may not get an answer back. She makes herself very, very accessible, but I have shared with her multiple times that, she needs to have a life too. So try to keep things during normal working hours. If you send something on the weekend, that's fine. Just you may or may not see a response until she gets back in the office. My phone number, office direct line and cell phone number, both you are also always welcome to text or call that number if you need anything. I am accessible at any time. I have no problem taking things over the weekend, assuming I'm not, babysitting the grandkids or something. I'll be happy to take your text messages or your phone calls if you have any questions. And then last but not least, I'm going to reiterate that your department heads are a great resource in learning about how their offices function and what's important to them. And that is a perfect segue into the last and final thing we were going to do today, which is to do some introductions of some of those department heads. We've got some new ones and some returning ones, and I thought this would be a nice opportunity for you to hear from them. So, Nancy, you're sitting right here. Would you mind going first? I know you've all heard from Nancy already this morning, but I'll give her an opportunity just to do a brief introduction and a little bit of an overview of what her office does besides clerk the board meetings.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome again. I want to welcome all the new county board members. If you ever have any questions about the agenda or anything that has to do with the county board meeting, you will contact me, not Becky. I'm responsible for that agenda and the minutes that go into the county board meeting. Just for all of you that don't know, I do run 3 departments. First floor is election. On the second floor, I have an office that's called iVitals, and the other office is called recording. In those different offices, iVitals consists of birth, death, and marriage records. We also do civil unions. We register assumed names, doing business as, and we are responsible for the insurance for the whole county. The recording office, we record military discharge papers, all documents pertaining to real estate, and another big part is we handle delinquent taxes. So I work very closely with the treasurer's office and Paul and his girls in that office. The election department, which is on the first floor, just so everybody knows, it has been relocated. It is just right around the corner, which used to be called the break room. We do conduct all federal, state, and local elections. And that department also handles tax extension and economic interests. So if you get that lovely yellow piece of paper that's an economic interest, it needs to go to Deb and KJ in my election department on the first floor. So I did touch on that. I do clerk the county board meetings. I also do issue liquor, video, and raffle license for the county. And I also am considered the record keeper for all of Lee County. So if there's any papers, documents you're looking for that you can't find online, they will be held in my office. A little bit about myself. I have been in office since February 1st, 2021. I was appointed to replace Kathy Myers, and now I have been elected to serve the next 4 years for this county. And I'm looking very forward to working with also the two new elected officials, which is Paul and the treasurer, and our new sheriff, Clay. And again, I just want to welcome everyone to County Board, and does anyone have any questions for me? Okay, I'll turn it over to the next person. Thank you.
So I forgot, I neglected to tell everyone that these department summaries, so the departments actually did prepare a summary, so you have it for reference going forward. So they prepared these documents. I'm going to pull up Nancy's just as an example. It's in your resource folder in that #1 county board folder. And so here's an overview of Nancy's department. It also gives contact information if you ever needed to reach her, how many employees she has, her annual budget, et cetera, and a lot of what she just referenced here. So for each of these departments that are presenting to you today, you have something in writing in that resource folder to refer back to should you need to contact them. With that said, we have a person who didn't submit this because I didn't think of it until Bob pointed it out this morning, and that would be Administrative Assistant Becky Brenner, who has a couple things she'd like to say too.
So good morning, everybody, and welcome to the new board members. My cell phone number was made available, so you can feel free to contact me at any time. You can also email me. As many of you know, I've already been in contact with you probably several times. So, and my office number is up there as well. As Nancy did state, I clerk the committee meetings. She does all the county board meetings. So if there is something that is related to the county board agenda, then you'll need to contact Nancy. Otherwise, I would be the one to contact for the committee agendas. Last year, we decided that, or I guess the county board decided that anything that goes on an agenda for the county board has to be submitted to the chair. Anything that's not submitted to the chair cannot be added to the agenda. So if you do have an agenda item, make sure you contact, usually the email is me, Wendy, and the chair. Otherwise, it will not be put on the agenda. Let's see. So the county board meeting is typically, well, let me start with the committee meetings are typically the second full week of the month. So you got a calendar on your desk there. And then the county board meeting would follow that on the following Thursday or Tuesday if it's holiday. If you are not able to attend the meetings, I would appreciate if you could give me a call at least 48 hours in advance. That way, if we don't have a quorum, we can have somebody fill in for you. I'm also pleading with you to show up at least 15 minutes early so we can get everybody in there on board. And eventually we'll start the voting electronically. So we have to have you here. We have to have you signed in. And even if you want RSVP now that we all have on board too, that would be a great addition.
So Becky, I'm going to interrupt you just a second. So a few minutes ago, you heard me say exactly those words with one exception. Becky would be the one, or myself, in her absence, the one that would be tracking down Tom Kitson to get a quorum. So please do let one of us or both of us know. But remember, your board rules do say you have to reach out to your committee chair if you're not going to be available. Or if you're going to attend remotely, you need to let that committee chair know that so that we can, again, Becky and I will figure out who we can appoint if you give us enough notice, but don't forget that committee chair or board chair.
Other than that, there will be an email that goes out prior to committee week every month, letting you know that you have to send me the information if it's going to be put on the agenda. Again, you have to contact the chair, but there's going to be a schedule that goes out every month to let you know when the meeting is, and then the request for any agenda items. So other than that, I don't have a whole lot. You can find me at the end of the hall here. You can usually contact me at any time of the day or night and get a response. So, do you have any questions for me? Okay,
Any questions for Becky? All right.
thank you.
So I went ahead and took advantage of the resource folder where all of these summaries are at. And so I'm going to go in order now of the resource folder. I skipped around a little bit before. As Jim Sheeline mentioned earlier, Jennifer Boyd is the county assessor. Jennifer is traveling today to go meet a brand new grandbaby. So she wasn't able to be here, but her department summary is in your files there. You can take a look at that, and there's contact information to contact her if you need to. I don't see, Amy's not here yet, is she? So we'll come back. She's not going to make it. Okay, all right. So once again, Circuit Clerk Amy Johnson is not able to be here, so her information is also in your packet. County Clerk Nancy Peterson already went. EMA Department, Kevin, would you come up? And for the rest of the department heads here, I'm going to follow down this list, so you'll see when you're coming up.
Good morning and welcome to all the new county board members. My name is Kevin Lally. I'm the director of Lee County Emergency Management, sometimes known as EM. This office is mandated by 20 ILCS 3305/1. So it is a state mandated office. Really, my duties are to oversee planning, training, preparedness for emergency response. It's kind of the overarching goals. But I also serve as a link between county government and state government on the emergency management side. I coordinate responses during disasters. So when there's that large event that happens, my task is to coordinate things, make sure the state knows what's going on, and if we need those state assets, be able to obtain those. I'm also responsible for updating the emergency operation plan and all memorandums of understanding with other agencies. But during a disaster, when we declare a disaster, the county board chairman is actually the person in charge. And then my position is to act as a chief advisor to him and any others, whoever else would be in his position. So to manage, and I also manage the emergency operations center we have. In the past 11 years, we've seen 15 disaster declarations in the county. 3 of those we received federal funding for. And those range from flooding to winter storms to the tornado we had at Woodhaven. So, and the other one we're managing currently, still ongoing, is COVID. So I've been in this office for 17 years now with the county. And we've seen many changes and many things happen. If you'd like more information, please feel free to contact me. Again, information's in onboard there, but I don't want to dwell on things. But if you're interested in learning more, feel free to give me a call. Any questions that I can answer? Great, thank you.
ETSB, Shelley Dallas.
Good morning, everyone. Does anybody know what ETSB means? You didn't know you're going to be quizzed, did you? I love it. Okay. I'm Shelley Dallas. I'm the executive director of the Emergency Telephone System Board, AKA 911, 911, however you want to refer to it. But you'll see us in an acronym of sorts all out throughout the county. Basically, you will probably see me least, or our acronym 911, of any of the other officials that you will have up here today. Lee County ETSB is actually, we are a component of the Lee County Board. And by saying that, I like to refer to us as the orphan child, I guess. We are a component as defined by our auditor because the county board chair, with the approval of the county board, appoints the ETSB board members. By statute, the ETSB board members must, or the ETSB board must have a county board designee. Mr. Hudson is your county board designee for the ETSB or on the ETSB. You're fortunate enough, this county board has a twofer. Mr. Copine is also on the ETSB, but he represents law enforcement. We have 2 members of the law enforcement community on the ETSB. We have 2 members of the fire service on the ETSB, 2 members of emergency medical Compton area. And also by statute, or our bylaws, we have to have 1 member of each county board district represented on the ETSB. So there are a total of 9 members. The sheriff or his designee is also a member of the ETSB as well as an at-large on the ETSB, which is actually Mr. Lally. I'm not going to bore you with what 911 does. I'm sure everybody in this room is pretty familiar. We are the sole public safety answering point throughout the entire county. We manage all calls for service, not just 911 calls. We manage all incoming calls for the Lee County Sheriff's Department, all incoming calls for the Dixon Police Department. And then we also answer all 911 calls for all of the 10 fire departments throughout the entire county. In totality, I would say COVID years were a little different. About 60,000 calls a year we take in at the 911 center between Lee County Sheriff lines, Dixon Police lines, and 911 lines. About 20% of those calls for service are 911 lines. Little fun fact, typically it's about 40, 40, and 10 a day, but typically about 40% of the calls come in daily or from the Sheriff's Department. 40% of the calls are typically Dixon Police Department, and then about 10 to 15% are 911 to give or take. During a storm, I will tell you, our call volume, we look like a Christmas tree in there. We light up we have the potential to take 15 calls at one time. We have 2 dispatchers on duty all the time. Sometimes 3 now, thank you County Board for now that we have a float position or a power shift position. So we do have 2 on duty all the time, and when staffing allows, we have 3 for power shift times, high call volume, typically the 4th of July weekend, we try to have 3. Amboy Depot days, we try to have 3. New Year's Eve, we try to have 3 dispatchers on. So you can, when we know there's a storm coming, I may have our float position come in and work during the storm. When there's a snowstorm, okay, let me rephrase that. The first snow of the year is crazy in the 911 center because people forget how to drive. I mean, I'm just going to say it. So in short, I basically oversee the operations of the 911 center. By statute, this is where I commingle with a lot of the other departments. The treasurer's office is by statute the custodian of the ETSB funds. ETSB is funded by 911 surcharge. We receive no county funds, no taxpayer funds, nothing. Everything that we receive for our income and to fund our 911 operations is from your 911 surcharge. So if you look on your phone bill, cell phone bill, if any of you still have a landline, it's $1.50 per phone. And that is how that money all gets funneled through the state, and the state comptroller's office, after they take their share, then reimburses the ETSB, and that is how we are funded. What I thought I would do, I'm going to condense my 29 years of experience at the county into 5 minutes real quick for you. And basically what I thought I would do is cover not just the operations of what we do down there. Like I said, I think that's pretty obvious, but talk about there is an agreement between the Lee County Sheriff, the Lee County ETSB, and you as the county board. So I thought I'd highlight some of the questionable areas that I receive quite frequently on exactly what that contract entails or that agreement entails. Basically, the Lee County Sheriff, he appoints 10 telecommunicators to the telecommunication operations at the 911 center. And you also hear the acronym ECC, PSAP, it all means the same thing. ECC is Emergency Communication Center, PSAP, Public Safety Answering Point, it's all 911 center. So if I interchange those acronyms, I'm all meaning the same thing. The Lee County ETSB and its executive director, basically I oversee the immediate supervision of all the telecommunicators for the inclusive day-to-day operations and scheduling, as well as all enhanced 911 functions. The Lee County ETSB, we oversee the PSAP facilities, the communications equipment, computers, training, and all the mandated training that there's a lot now that the TCs are mandated to complete throughout the year or semi-annually. The Lee County ETSB establishes policies and procedures for the operation of the PSAP. And this is where it gets into the commingling of all of us. And it talks about personnel issues regarding telecommunicators shall be handled in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department or the Sheriff, his designee, the ETSB Executive Director, and a mutually appropriate, if let's say we have an issue with a fire call, then it would be a member of the ETSB that represents fire. So although the ETSB, we have 2 employees, myself and IT Administrator Mike McBride. The ETSB employs 2 employees. The telecommunicators, although the ETSB oversees the operations, are employees of the sheriff. There's agreement behind the scenes, which I won't get into because maybe Sheriff Whalen will do a little bit of that later down the road. The ETSB, basically, we pay the county for the telecommunicators to answer 911 calls. So at year end, I go through and do a percentage of the total call volume that we receive. And of that percentage, last year, it was 22% of the calls we received at the 911 center were 911 calls. The other 88% were between the Sheriff's Department and Dixie Police. So this coming year, the ETSB will reimburse the county 22% of the dispatch salaries and benefits from last year. Does that make sense? So the way it all works, I think there's a misconception that the ETSB employs the telecommunicators. We have a great working relationship between the Sheriff's Department and the county board to make sure the telecommunicators are taken care of, and it doesn't matter who they report to. It happens, it works, and it's been a very beneficial thing, I think. We'll see with the new administration coming in. It's been very beneficial. The ETSB also establishes policies and criteria for the testing of telecommunicators in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department. Right now, Ryan Buskell is the Dixon City Fire Department Chief. He's the chair on the 911 board. So the conduction of the telecommunicator interviews will be done by a sheriff or his designee, myself, and the ETSB chair being Ryan Buskell. The ETSB, again, agrees to reimburse the county general fund by that percentage of call volume. So that's how that all works. And then any type of disciplinary action, I hate to say that, anything like that, is again in conjunction between the Sheriff's Department, the ETSB executive director, and then the discipline that's affected by whatever junction might happen. As far as generalization, the county has agreed to provide twice weekly cleaning to the ETSB because we are a separate building. So we have our own. Maintenance does help out. I will say county maintenance does help out in emergency situations, but we have to hire outside contractors for plumbing, heating, cooling, lighting. We do all of that in our own budget that's funded by the surcharge on your phone bill. And the Lee County does provide snow removal for us, lawn mowing, and like I said, twice weekly cleaning. We no longer receive a surcharge based on what the county voted to and agreed upon. The state now oversees that by state statute, and it's $1.50. And like I said, the state takes their portion and we get the rest. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but hopefully this will answer some of the nomenclature that I've been requested to provide throughout the years. Although, like I said, the ETSB, I don't want to say we're separate from the county, but we operate under our own budget. That's why you won't see our budget figures here. We set our own budget, they set their own expenditures, and we do try to fall, our board tries to fall in line with as far as the county handbook. Mike and I, the ETSB employees, pretty much follow the same guidelines as the rest of the county employees. However, the ETSB, if they deem appropriate, can make modifications as they see fit. Any questions? Well, I would entertain and I would love it if any of you are ever interested in coming and having a tour or a demonstration or checking out what we do at the 911 center. Please get a hold of me and I'd be happy to let you in after we unlock the doors. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. I'm thinking we needed a flow chart there. Next on the list is the Health Department. Kathy Ferguson Allen contacted me this morning. She had a personal emergency that came up, so she's not able to be here. But once again, her information is in the packet with her contact information and et cetera. Next on the list is the Highway Department. We have County Highway Engineer Dave Anderson.
Well, good morning, everyone. Most of you know me. As Wendy said, my name is Dave Anderson, county engineer. And to those that are new to the board, welcome. And I look forward to working with you and as well as my staff. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time going over what's already on that sheet as far as this kind of the statistics of the department. And be honest with you, most of you have a general idea of what goes on at a highway department anyway. So we don't have to go through a laundry list of things that we do or don't do. What I thought I might do though is go over jurisdictional responsibilities and why you're involved in that. Because really what it comes down to, and if I'm sitting in your seats, I'm going to be asking myself a question when things come up on an agenda in a board meeting. Why am I voting for this particular thing at the highway department? And why do I even have to? So the way highway departments or departments of transportation are laid out in the state of Illinois, you've got IDOT, of course, you've got county highway departments, you've got townships, you've got municipalities. So the only thing that we're concerned about on a voting basis would be everything under county highway jurisdiction. We have 220 miles of road under county highway jurisdiction. The county board is the statutory highway authority for those miles. With respect to a township, the highway commissioner, the elected township highway commissioner, is a statutory highway authority for township roads. IDOT is for state roads. So on all matters dealing with funding and so forth with highway departments, you're going to be voting on it. That's why there'll be a resolution this month coming through for motor fuel tax. It's a motor fuel tax resolution, maintenance resolution, where I kind of put all my maintenance activities together, put a cost to it. You'll be voting on that because you're the statutory highway authority. I am not. So I can't just sign it and turn it in. So we go to funding. You have 3 locally levied funds. You voted on those, you appropriated those with your budget. We also have motor fuel tax funds that we expend. Those are state funds that are issued to us. However, 2 things have to happen before you spend that money. The highway authority has to appropriate the money, and IDOT has to authorize it. Then it can be spent. So any matters of motor fuel tax that come before the board have to be voted on by you. So you may hear or have questions about how this county township interaction happens. I get numerous calls every year, and so does my staff, maybe having a complaint about what a highway commissioner is doing and asking us to do something about it. We technically really don't have any say-so in that, and you'll hear that a lot. But we also do crossover, so for every rule, there's an exception. So not that we necessarily have authority, but township motor fuel funds run through the highway department. So we administer those for the townships. They have their own levied funds, but we still administer those funds for all 22 townships. So when you kind of see the statistics on the sheet and it has township mileage and so forth, well, why would I even include that on there? Well, because we do really all the engineering work for all 900 and some miles of township road. We put all those projects together, we administer them during construction, and all the finances run through the county. We also do all their bridge inspections, which are mandated by federal law. So we do have a link with the township and the township roadway system, but when it comes right down to it, we don't have direct authority over what goes on those roads, okay? So there's kind of a distinction there. So I thought that will help sort of inform you of what you're doing and why you're doing it as they really relate to highway matters. Other than that, you can read all the statistics. We do a whole bunch of stuff. If you ever have questions, obviously just give me a shout, and be happy to talk with you or sit down with you. Email me, and be glad to communicate. So that's all I've got.
Any questions for Dave?
Could you mention the e-recycling program that you do?
So we also administer, I was brought up here as the county engineer for the highway department, but we also run the solid waste department through the highway department. And so we do a couple major things, you might say, and a bunch of other little stuff. But the 2 major things we do is we administer the drop-off recycling program that you'll see. You got 6 county sites, 6 sites around the county with the regular household recyclables. We administer that program, and then we also take in electronics. We do that from April to November. Our guys have to manage all that material, so when it comes basically the winter months, we just don't have the time to be managing all that material when my guys need to be plowing snow. So we take the winter off of that, but you can drop electronics off at our site. So we do that, and it's really at no cost to the county except to man it and manage it. So we've kind of got a system worked out there. Good question, no, Mike? Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Dave. Terry in the back is from Animal Control, and somehow I missed her in the A's. Are you ready, Terry? Do you want to come up?
Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Zink. I do not like standing up here talking, just to get that clear right now, as everyone knows. I am Lee County Animal Control. Our office is out by the Sheriff's Department. And I would love for anybody that wants to come in, take a look, to come on out. I've always asked county board members if you want to see what we're doing and the things that we do, please come out. There's 4 of us total. Myself and Brandy are 2 full-time, and I have 2 part-time people. I have an ACO, animal control officer, and Karen is our clerical. She puts in the certificates for me. I don't know if is my paper on there? I think
Did you want me to pull it up?
I think I forgot to send it to you.
Yeah, that's why
Well, anyway, my information is on there. It will be on there.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to call or email. Also, our office is basically self-funded from the fees, from registration, impound fees, that kind of thing. We do a lot of different areas of things. We don't just take in registration. We do welfare calls, livestock and small animal. We also do follow up on bites. Those are the 2 more important things that we do. And then, like I said, on top of it, registration, trying to think of some other things. We do go out on stray animals, mostly dogs. We do not do wildlife. We do not have the license, nor the equipment to do anything with wildlife. We just redid the building. Thank you, board. We redid our kennel area, which turned out very nice. We have concrete walls now instead of like wire for kennels. They can go indoor, outdoor. We have also an extended area of fence that they can go out and play once we have to obviously be out there with them. We do follow the state statutes, and we have county ordinances that we follow. And we also do adoptions out of our facility. So we'll put our animals on our Facebook page. So we have to man that and try to keep that up to date. Other than that, I don't think I can think of anything else.
Does anybody have any questions for Terry?
All right.
Thanks, Terry. All right, next on your list is lots, and rumor has it that Greg Gates is not available today because he's in Hawaii, the nerve. But his information is in the packet. Maintenance department information is in the packet. I don't see our maintenance supervisor, Greg Saunders, here. So that takes me next to probation. Stacy, your timing was perfect.
Good morning. My name is Stacy Stewart, and I'm from the Lee County Probation and Court Services Department. I've been the director there for the past 6 years, and I've been there for a total of 27 years. With our department, we have a staff of 10 full-time employees and 3 part-time staff also. The 10 full-time employees, as far as finances for the county, those salaries are reimbursed from the state. For the past 4 to 5 years, reimbursement has been at 100%. And in addition, for the 3 part-time individuals, I contract with those people, so I pay those wages from offender fees, which we collect here at the county. We are an arm of the court. I work under the direction of the presiding chief judge. The services that we provide, most everything is done through the collection of offender fees. So we have very little cost to the county for the operation and the day-to-day activity from the probation department. We're a very active department. The courts of Lee County are very innovative. They're always pushing forward with new programs, new tasks that we have. We oversee a drug court, a veterans treatment court. We also offer GPS supervision for both adults and juveniles throughout the county. And we work collaboratively with the state's attorney's office and with the circuit clerk's office, as well as Dixon PD and the sheriff's department. You are always welcome to stop in or let me know if you have any questions as far as what takes place within our department. You're always welcome to stop in and visit. We always offer for individuals from the county to also observe the Veterans Treatment Court graduation and the drug court graduation. I know several of you have been there already, which we appreciate greatly, and we'll continue to keep you advised when those things come up. Does anybody have any questions for me right now? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. Next on the list is the probation department. Bob Thompson is not available to be here, so we got Nikki Messini. Come on up, Nikki. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, public defender. Sorry. Scared you, didn't I, Stacy? Sorry.
All right, I'm Nikki Messini. I've been the office manager at the Public Defender's Office, I think since 2014, but I've been there since 06. Bob is in juvenile court right now, so I wasn't totally prepared to be here. I think we did email out kind of our office job duties. I don't know if everybody has them. If not, I can get copies to everybody, but.
It's in the packet, so they've got it in their packet. They've
Perfect, I
got. So,
already have
yeah.
it. Since I wasn't so prepared, I did hear Stacy talk about salaries. I do know that Bob's salary, I believe, is covered by 2/3 from the state. But our office is available for any defendant who cannot afford an attorney. Once they qualify by the judge, then we're appointed, open any and all criminal files, juvenile files. We do handle drug court, veterans treatment court, extraditions. Trying to think of, if any defendant would like any sort of inpatient treatment, mental health treatment, we do try to find them or help them get services or find ways to get services. I guess I don't know exactly what else I need to say besides what's in our packet, but if anybody has questions, I can try to answer.
Any questions for Nikki? All right.
Short and
Thanks.
sweet. Thank you.
Regional Office of Education, we've got Chris Tennyson here. We're winding down, guys. Only got a few more on the list here, so.
I don't know why, but everywhere I go, I seem to be one of the last speakers on the agenda before lunch. It's always a privilege. My name is Chris Tennyson. I am the Regional Superintendent of Schools for Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside counties. I'm honored to be your regional superintendent. I am the one elected education official in the state of Illinois by statute. So I've been fulfilling the job for 2 years. Bob Sondergroth retired a couple years ago, and I don't know if COVID had anything to do with that or not, but he picked a good time to retire. So I've been in his chair for the last year and a half. Did run in the last election. I'm very honored to be able to continue as your regional superintendent of schools for the next 4 years and looking forward to doing even more. By statute, there's two things that my office is responsible, and I like it says this in the writing, that I'm supposed to supervise all school districts in the region, which there's 24 school districts in the 3 counties, 71 buildings that we're responsible for. But I like this better. I'm supposed to advise and assist the educators in any way that I can to help them help their students. And that's the way we approach our job. I put together a new board member packet that's in there, and I tried to get it down to 5 pages with the important stuff that we do. It ended up being 15, and I apologize for that. But if you do have some time to look through it, I hope that you do. There's a number of things by statute that we're required to do. Our office is responsible for inspections of the schools to make sure that they're safe every year, and we get that taken care of. Make sure the bus drivers are certified, and if they're up for certification, we take care of that every year and help districts try and recruit bus drivers, which has been a challenge the last couple of years. We're responsible for all the background checks of not just the educators in the region, but anyone that goes into our schools. That includes all the construction workers and contractors that you see getting work done during the schools. They come through our office. We have to do the background checks to make sure it's safe for them to be on campus with our students and our educators. We have to make sure that everyone that works in our schools is licensed properly. So we're very busy, especially in the summertime and when educators are up to renew their license, helping them make sure that they know they need to renew their license and that everything's set moving forward. And it's been a challenge the last couple of years making sure we find licensed educators to be in our classrooms. And we work hard with our superintendents and our principals to do what we can to make sure that those classrooms are covered. We do provide professional development for our districts, and you'll see in that packet, if you look through it, our office, I would put us in the top 2 in the state for the amount of professional development that we do for our districts. We're not required by statute to do a certain amount, but we think it's very important, and we have one of the bigger professional development departments in the state, and I'm very honored and proud to work with them with all the help that we provide our educators to make sure that they're equipped to help students. That's very important to us. I get asked all the time, like, how do you know the school districts are obeying the laws and meeting the standards of the law? And that's through our compliance system, which every 4 years we have to work with the district on. So we're on a rotation. I've got about 5 districts every year, and we're working with 5 right now where I have to go and meet with the superintendents and explain the system to them. They upload in our state computer system proof that they're meeting all the education requirements, state laws, school code laws, so that we know their students and educators are being looked after and taken care of, and we're happy to do that. We do run 2 programs that we're required to. One is for adults that have not gotten their high school diploma. That is our alternative ed program, our GED program that we run throughout the 3 counties, which is very successful and continually has a number of people enrolled, and we're helping those people get their high school diploma. And the other program that we're very proud of is we're required to run schools for the counties for our students that have been expelled due to discipline issues, or also students that have been through multiple traumas at an early age and just do not function well in a normal school setting. Right now, that school is in the Thome building in Rock Falls, and we have about 73 students now. We have a little bit of a waiting list, and we're trying to work on that because we hate not being able to service all the students that need it, but we've been very busy and doing a lot of great work and getting a lot of students graduated through those schools. And then the other thing we're responsible for every year is I have to let the state know, I know I said compliance is every 4 years, but I have to let the state know every year how our schools are doing and recommend that they continue to be accredited and recognized. And I work with the districts hard on that to make sure they have the support they need to get everything ready for that and then get that taken care of. So it's a ton of work that we do. We've been in the little building right between Newman High School and Sacred Heart Church for a long time in Sterling. We have outgrown that building. The board members that are on the board, I thank you for working with us and the other 2 county boards also, because this had to be approved. But we will be moving in June, and we're excited about that. We'll be moving to another location in Sterling where we got the best deal, which is, if you know where Goodwill is in Sterling, the strip mall there, we'll be in the 2 units right next to Goodwill. It'll give us a big chance to expand our offices and to possibly hire some more people and do a much better job. So until then, please stop by and see us if you need anything in our current location, which is right next to Newman High School. And we'll look forward to having a big open house when we get our new location open July 1st. So any questions at all about our office? Yes.
How does your position interact with the different school boards?
So I'm here to assist and advise the school boards. I am the one person in the 3 counties that can remove a school board member. I don't like that because I don't think any one person should be in charge of removing an elected official. I don't think that's how the system should work. Fortunately, that doesn't happen too often. It basically says in statute that if a school board member just willful and wanton neglect to perform their duties, and then they leave the rest up to me to interpret, which is really, really difficult. It's only come up once in the time that I've been here, and I was able to work with that board member on some things, and the board member ultimately ended up resigning so we could begin the process of appointing a new board member. But my job is just to assist them and help them. I get questions and calls from them a lot, and I try and stay up as much as I can on school law. I'm very lucky to have the state's attorneys in all 3 counties are my legal advisors. So I lean on them for advice and make sure that I can help them in any way that I can. Any other questions? A little bit about myself. If I look familiar, before I became the assistant regional superintendent, I was the principal at Fulton High School for 5 years. And then a lot of people remember me for Dixon. I was very fortunate to be the assistant principal at Dixon High School for 7 years. Loved my time there and learned a lot working with Dr. Grady. And before that, I taught high school in Sterling for 5 years. And before that, I was a police officer, juvenile detective, and school resource officer for 10 years. Up in the Chicago suburbs, was a school resource officer at 2 very large high schools for 6 years. So my background is school safety and security. People ask me all the time, what's my number one priority is regional soup, and they always think I'm going to say educate students, but that's not. My main job is to work with the districts to make sure that every student and every staff member goes home safe to their families every night and that they feel safe at school. Because if they don't, they're not going to be successful. You can't teach if you don't feel safe, and you can't learn if you don't feel safe. So I'm a certified ALICE instructor, which is mainly, most of our schools use 2 systems now for their safety drills. It's either ALICE or Run, Hide, Fight, and what to do in a crisis situation and how to best handle the crisis situation depending on how it's developing. And we're also required by statute now, every district has to have a behavioral threat assessment team in place, a trained team of staff members in the school that can get together anytime there's a report that a student may be struggling, and to look at that situation and find out what, if any, supports that student needs right away to get them help. And I am a certified trainer of those teams, and I've been the person that's trained most of our 24 school districts, and I do a session every fall in both ALICE and behavioral threat assessment to make sure any new team members, new educators are trained and ready to go at the school year. So that's pretty important to me. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Sheriff Clay Whalen, would you like to come up?
Well, by 4 minutes, still good morning. So congratulations to everybody on your election. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Make the mission, keep this county moving forward. I'm not going to belabor, the sheriff's office summary. You guys can read. Was able to keep it to 1 page. So just a little bit of background about me. I'm born and raised in Dixon, went to Dixon High School, went to Sauk Valley Community College, got my degree in law enforcement administration, went on to Western Illinois University. I retired from the Dixon Police Department as a deputy chief. I had about 27 and a half years of service. I actually met with then Sheriff Bivens at the time and entertaining a vision to run for the office of sheriff, but my kids were young at that point, so I halted that and waited for the appropriate time now. My predecessor, John Simonton, was, when I announced, he endorsed me. He welcomed me out to the sheriff's department 10 weeks early, right after I retired from Dixon, so I could get acclimated to the office. Thank you very much for doing that, because now I'm able to hit the ground running. So far, it's been a pretty seamless transition, and I hope it continues that way. Some of my background, I was, Sheriff Simonton was largely tactical in his experience as far as law enforcement, tactical operations. Mine has been more investigative. I was the chairperson for a six county agency, the Northwest Illinois Major Case Squad. So I was the chairperson for Lee Ogle, Stevenson, Whiteside, Joe Davies, and Carroll. So basically, if we had a major investigation, people needed other resources, they would call upon me. I would get the resources and funnel them that way. They still ran, if it was up in Joe Davies County, they were the lead investigating agency. We were there to support and supplement them. So it's basically just organizing, many hands make light work. So it's just trying to get the job done and get it done effectively and efficiently. There has been some challenges. I've gone from Dixon, which was just under 9 square miles as far as geographic jurisdiction, to now 729 square miles for the county of Lee. Dixon, for their staffing, they had 4 officers on day shift, 4 officers on night shift with a cover officer covering 3P to 3A, some of the higher volume times. So basically 5 officers on nights. With the Sheriff's Department, we have 2 on days. We got an east and a west. On nights, we have 3. So That's logistically, some of the challenges I face, with the city. If somebody needed assistance, they were there pretty quickly. With the sheriff's department, I'll give you an example. We've had some staffing issues, so I was actually out covering the road on a Saturday recently, and Sheriff Simonton was actually covering the road on Saturday. Well, he wound up stopping somebody over on the east side of the county. They had a warrant, and their license was suspended. So I was not very familiar with the east side of the county, so I'm starting to get more acclimated to that. So I punched in the crossroads where he was at, and he was 32 miles away. So I'm like, boy, I hope he doesn't need help. But he took care of everything. So for those of you that don't have my cell phone, please get with me afterwards. Like I said, I look forward to working with each and every one of you. I look forward to working with Wendy, all the other county board department heads. And I'm a big collaborate, cooperate, and commit. Let's get it done. So any questions for me? If anybody wants a tour of the jail, look me up and give you the nickel tour. We have a beautiful facility. Thank you very much. For those of you that were on the county board at that time, we really have a nice modern facility, and I inherited a great department. So any questions for me? Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff. State's Attorney Charlie, do you have anything to add?
The only thing I'd add is you really do need to understand that there are a lot of good department heads here, a lot of good department heads in this county, and I've worked with them for a number of years already. Can't say enough about all of the efforts they put forth. I would again extend an invitation if anybody wants to stop by the office, kind of see what we do. Please feel free to do so. There's always going to be someone there, so don't feel like you have to set up an appointment beforehand. Chris was kind enough to not mention it, but Chris was actually my teacher back in high school. So just to age him a little bit and get the little zing right in there. But I love Chris quite a bit, and always happy to help out with the ROE. If there's anything else related to the criminal aspect of it, I know that I already jumped into the civil aspect and what we do for the county in that regard. Please feel free to reach out and I'll answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Charlie? Treasurer Paul, do you have any follow-up comments you'd like to make?
Is it okay if I just do it from here and then that way we don't have to move around? I did want to tell you a little bit about our office. We do have two great people working there, Deborah Robertson and Samantha Schmidt. They know what they're doing. Maybe just some quick background on the office. We are your payroll office. We are also your accounts payable office. And obviously, we are the tax collector. What maybe some of you don't know is there's a little over 28,000 different parcels in the county of Lee that we collect on. There was $74 million that went through our office this last year. So, we do handle big dollars. And of that, there was also a little over 90 county governments that then we disperse that money to. So that 74 million, obviously you saw in the documentation, the county gets less than 10% of that. So we are dispersing and in charge of making sure that money gets out to the other governments. Again, come see us. If you have any questions, we'd love that you understand what's going on down in the office. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. Paul Gorski popped in. Paul Gorski is the head of the IT department and apparently popped upstairs and had some words of wisdom he'd like to impart.
I don't know if they're words of wisdom, but I was asked to speak to you.
They better be words of wisdom.
And I'm going to follow your 3 to 5 minutes, but also address something that Bob Olson wanted me to speak to. Again, my name is Paul Gorski. I've been with the county, will be 2 years in February. And I have a staff of 2 people, Jonathan Hendrickson, who will be your primary interaction with IT, but you can always give me a call. And Zach Owen, who's primarily working on network issues and new courts database issues. And my priorities coming on and still are improving the network infrastructure here in Lee County. That's the wired and the wireless, and security. And improving the systems for both of those so everybody runs smoothly with as minimal interruptions to operations as possible. And then my focus in terms of support typically would be on a normal day, operations in new courts and the LEC, and then elections, and everything else is a tie after that. Unless it's election day or election cycle, then elections gets popped up to the top. So that's how I establish, somebody's asked me in the past how I establish my priorities, and those are my priorities. And currently, projects we are working on, wrapping up some server migrations to a new platform that we have established in New Courts, and we'll be working with New Court staff also on some deploying some new software and hardware as a result of grants to be expected to be awarded in the spring, and continuing with the other network and security upgrades that we have planned with the budget going to 2023. Bob Olson asked me to speak to a particular issue, which I'd actually been thinking about this weekend. We don't now, but we are moving to do this, is to assign County of Lee official email addresses to all the board members with the goal of keeping your work-related or county-related emails within that email address so we can better respond to FOIA requests and security and the like. And this discussion just happened 5 minutes ago, so we're still working out some of the details, but it's not that hard to do. But I just need to get some codes to Bob and the like and let folks know it's not going to cost that much. And it's actually what I would recommend. I'm an elected official myself in a different county, and I've always recommended that we do this. And for some reason, having separate email addresses is a foreign idea to some units of government, but I really recommend it. This keeps your personal email personal and your work email, or county email separate. And then when a response for a FOIA or a legal request comes in, we know which email address to go to, and IT can work with you and or the appropriate departments to respond to that request. But if you have any other questions for me, my email address is pgorski@countyoflee.org, and my number is 815-871-6320. That's my cell. It's in a letter that I sent to Wendy, a little bit late. I sent it to her this morning, but it should be on board. She'll be posted on board later today or tomorrow. So, but feel free to give me a call anytime you have a question on IT operations here or the like. So, any immediate questions?
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you. And I welcome everybody to the new board. So I got to say, in the last 2 years, I've really appreciated being here in Lee County, and felt that all the county officials have got the taxpayers in their best interest. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. So the last one in your onboard is the zoning department, and I'm not seeing Dee here. She might have gotten called away by a phone call. So once again, that's in your packet. You can take a look at it there with contact information. Dee is the zoning administrator. With that said, are there any final comments or questions? We're about to turn it over to Bob to adjourn the meeting. And before you all take off and run from us, we do have a lunch here. We've got food ready to go, and we're looking to have a light lunch in the room right behind you here. I'm hoping the education instruction will continue, albeit in a little bit less formal conversation. You can learn a little bit about each other. Although keep in mind Stephanie's issue with the Open Meetings Act. Don't be talking about county business, but learn a little bit about each other. Tom.
Thank you, Wendy. Just to reiterate Charlie's comments, having been here a few years, I think we're very fortunate to have the wonderful officials we have, both elected and department heads, to work with. It's been very easy for us to work through finance, and wherever Jim's at, I think you'd reiterate that. It's a wonderful group to work with. So new board members need to know they're good people to work with and talk to.
Thanks, Tom. That's all I have.
Yes, Angela.
If we are wanting some tours or like time with these people, is that something that Wendy, you would help facilitate, or would we reach out individually?
I'd be happy to facilitate, but the more direct response might be to go right to those department heads and use your resource folder there for their contact information and set it up with them. If you have any trouble getting hold of anybody, again, I'm happy to facilitate, but might as well go right to them.
I'd be glad to help too. If you got problems, or I'll help set it up too. So whatever you need.
Thank you.
And I highly recommend, especially our off-site facilities, you know, the LEC, the Law Enforcement Center, Animal Control, the Courts Building. You tend to get into this building a lot. You don't necessarily get a chance to see the other departments. So I think that's a great idea. Now I'm
Okay.
done.
With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Wilson, Mr. Scrogstad seconds it. Any discussion about adjournment? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.
Please join us for lunch, guys.
You frame it and put it on your office wall.
I framed nothing.